exactly. Six pack Lapadat. We got the GOAT Taylor Atwood. You back. We got a lot of catching up to do. People are seeing you're coming back. I got people asking questions to me about you coming back. So what the hell? Let's
Ooh.
have you on. A lot of things are going on in powerlifting, period. We
Hmm.
could get your opinion on, current latest what happened at Worlds, what's going down at juniors, what's like some of these juniors are popping off. First off, holy shit.
Yeah.
And then looking forward to like Sheffield and some of the goings on that's happening right now. But first off, let's talk about yourself before we take an eye on the entire community. How have you been health wise, and what's the plans?
Yeah, man. Appreciate you having me on.
Of course,
We were
dog.
trying to get this going for quite some time, and we finally got it. But I appreciate you having me on as always.
Open door
Um,
policy, dog, with you.
yeah, I appreciate it. So, yeah, where have I been? What I've been up to? Kind of just state of the union for Taylor Atwood. I haven't competed since June 2023 when I lost a world championship at IPF. Controversial, but nonetheless still lost, right? And I haven't competed since. So in that time frame since last June until September 1st now, so that's what, 15 months. I've really just been trying to get back to the 2021 Taylor and more, right? And what has that looked like? So first of all, I really had to work on my mental fortitude, as crazy as that sounds. I had back-to-back meets where I didn't meet expectations for myself, and that was just due to injury. And I also um, I felt like I was not the Taylor Atwood that I was being insecure, if I'm really being honest, because I was trying to cope with the fact that I wasn't 100%. And this was back before the Sheffield last year, and for Worlds. And I just like, I, when I hear myself back then, I was like, damn, that Taylor Atwood was broken. And I was really just resting on my laurels of, I've done so much in the powerlifting world in my weight class, and I've accomplished so many things, that I was trying to just talk. I was talking more, and I heard myself now, and I'm like, what the fuck was I doing?
What do you mean?
It
What do
just
you mean we say this is interesting? Because
yeah. So there was, I feel like I was getting attacked almost. People smelt blood in the water. And after Sheffield, once I didn't perform as everyone thought, let's be real, I was the favorite going into it. And training just was abysmal. And performance was still okay. It wasn't great, but it was still okay. Still placed fifth amongst a very deep 12-man
hmm,
class. So I wasn't like, I had put the bar so high for myself, um, at that 838 level, that when I came in at the 775, it was like, holy crap, what happened, Taylor? And I had listened to some of the podcasts, well, clip sound bites that we were having leading into that Sheffield, and it, it was like I had Rondell coming after me. I had talked about John Hack. Um, I had like these different sound bites of me saying I'm gonna destroy everybody at the Sheffield, right? And I didn't. So, and then the biggest thing was when I was listening back to everyone, because it was the first Sheffield and they were doing the stories leading up, and I was listening to the other athletes' stories. They were very inspiring, and that's what inspired me to come back on here and tell my story. But I heard everyone else, and then I heard my story leading into Sheffield, and it was just like, I'm gonna destroy everyone and blah blah blah, like very bravado kind of person. And looking back at it and where I'm at today, I had to physically or mentally evolve from that because I felt as if I was because I was injured, I was so focused again on the competition that I wasn't allowing myself to heal. And I was going down this path mentally where it was very toxic for myself, that it was almost like 20 when I uh lost to Shell in 2017 and then had to come back and kind of fight my way and then beat him in 2019. I was so focused on the competition that I wasn't focused on myself and I didn't allow myself to heal. Um, and I did the same thing coming out of Sheffield because I just had a quick turnaround into Worlds. I was so focused on like, damn, Calais is looking strong as shit. That was the first, since the Sheffield, that was the real first competition where I was going up against someone in my weight class and I didn't know if I was going to beat them. That was the first time in a very long time. Like even when Shell beat me in 2017, I wasn't expecting that. Like
Mm.
he came and just destroyed things. So for me, I was like, damn, I got to take a step back after Worlds last year, get healthy, but mainly work on my mental even more because it was like I was broken, man. That shit broke me. Not like completely shattered, but there was a crack, and I didn't know it at the time, but I was in a slight depression. There were some other things outside of powerlifting that was going on as well that I'm not going to speak on, but um, there was just an accumulation of events that had happened since June until about September, October last year, where I really had to do a gut check. And I talked to many people, went to a sports psychologist, talked to just my dad. He's my best friend. Talked to my wife. She's my best friend as well. But like, just kept my camp very close. Um, and some personal things that were going on. And I was just like, I got to get back right. I got to get my mental right. And then once I do that, I think that the physical will follow. So that's exactly what happened. After June last year, started talking, started doing physical therapy. I got the PRP shots in my knee. Um, I started doing a lot more rehab, prehab exercises, and we've really started to kind of veer off from powerlifting. It wasn't even squat, bench, deadlift anymore. It was like, let me just go into the gym to enjoy it again because I had just a 6 months almost. I would even say 9 months because I was rehabbing after Worlds until about September last year. And so for 9 months, man, think about that. You're not able to do what you're capable of, and you're not able to attack. You're not able to do things that I was idolizing the old Taylor Atwood, and it was like I got he's in the attic. I got to start in the basement. And
Mm.
what does that start with? We just got to reach the first floor. So that was like kind of how the step stool worked. So over the last year, 15 months, I've really been working on my mental fortitude and just being more positive, talking to a lot of people about positivity, not getting wrapped up in um, the mix of like all the shit that's been going down in the powerlifting community now. Like just sticking to what I know best and just lifting, not even worrying about anyone else. Now I have been keeping my tabs on people, so I know I have a an idea of what's going on. But in terms of like just for my own mental health, I've had to stay out of the limelight, as they say, and really take a step back and just get back to training. Kind of like what Rocky did in Rocky 3. I think it was Rocky 3 or Rocky 4. I can't remember.
When
He
he
went into the
fought
mountains.
Drago, yeah,
Yeah,
that's four. That's number four.
4. Yeah. So 4, Rocky 4, went into the mountains and we got back to the basics. And now, fast forward, this year, the last, I would say 4 months, man, I've been able to attack the weight like no other. And in just a short amount of time, in that 4 months, like you're seeing some of the training, but I haven't posted it.
You never
I'm,
do.
I,
You, yeah.
I haven't posted everything. So I'm not going to because I am notorious for that. I think it's a competitive advantage. I know Pete will hate me. You probably hate me as well. There's
I
some
hate you.
people in the community that don't agree with it, but I don't give a shit, respectfully, uh, because it's a competitive advantage, man. I was listening to some of your podcasts, and some of the coaches were like, "Yeah, Delaney doesn't post, so we didn't know what he was gonna do," and blah blah blah. And it's like that's how it's supposed to be. Like
However, okay, so this competition coming up. Which one is it? Who's going to be there? Because is there another 74 there?
the oh yeah, so me competing,
Yeah.
yeah.
Or you an
So
83? Yeah, let's talk
yeah,
about
yeah.
this.
Let's unpack that a little bit.
Yeah, let's
So
unpack this.
for those that don't know, I will be competing on October 27th in Boston, Massachusetts.
Nice.
It's close to Boston. It's like 15 minutes outside of Boston. And actually, Pete SBD is putting it on. So
Nice.
Pete's the meet director. It's a local meet. It's nothing too crazy, but it is sponsored by SBD. And I don't know exactly who's going to be there, um, but it was kind of. I'll lead you into how we even got to this meet. So I kind of gave you a rough rundown of what has happened over the last 15 months since I haven't competed since June last year. Um, had to work on my mental. That helped. Now we worked on my physical. And for the last 4 months, we've been able to really just like string together some good training. Still nursing a little, like, few hiccups here and there, but nothing as bad as what my knee was.
Hmm.
So I was talking with Jason and my coach from the strength guys, and he was telling me that like we need to start thinking about a meet. And this was about maybe a month ago. And we were discussing what meets were coming up, maybe potentially still keeping my hat, and this was in July. Um, I had talked to Miriam from Powerlifting America and Rodney. Shout out to them, but they asked me if I wanted to do the NAPF meet, and Gavin absolutely balled out, but nonetheless, um, I decided to respectfully decline that because I just wasn't ready yet, and this was 2 months ago. So then we were like, all right, well, there's a few meets coming up at the end of the year. Pete had mentioned there was potentially one that SBD would put on, but it wasn't for sure yet. And then he was like, I have this meet coming up in October, at the end of October, called Scary Strong. And I was like, huh, when's that? And he told me at the end of October. So that was about a month ago when I started just DMing him about what was happening, at least meet wise, with SBD. And then I spoke to Jason and we discussed kind of timeline because we were going to initially um, not do Scary Strong, do a meet in December, and then go prep for nationals in April. But Jason was like, I think it would be a lot better if we could start like somewhat to gauge where we're at so that we know how much kind of what the gap is. Um, we'll get into weight classes, but where the gap is with others, and we'll figure out kind of how hard and what we have to do over the next 6 months. So now we were discussing, and this was after Sheffield actually last year. So after Sheffield, there was a gut check. We had to figure out kind of what we wanted to do, um, going forward after Worlds as well. But it really started at Sheffield. So then a year later, this past Sheffield in February, we met as a group because my whole team was there. So it was Ben, it was Jason, Kedrick, and my father. and we all sat together. I think you saw us potentially in that
Oh, I
corner.
was about to say I seen that meeting. I tried to like linger around, and I think you guys caught me lingering.
We were scheming, man. We had a capo meeting, as they say.
That's right. That's
Uh,
right. I thought
so
somebody's getting whacked. I'm like, let's get out of here. I don't need to see how this ends.
um, yeah, and that was we weren't discussing anyone else except us. It was just what was going to happen for Taylor Atwood over this next time frame of how long we were going to take off. And we discussed kind of with Kedrick, and we were like, "Hey, what do you suggest?" And he was like, over the last 9 years, well, no, 5, 6 years since we have been together, but you've you've kind of like I don't think you've limit. He's like, I don't think you've limited your potential at sitting as a 74. But he's like, imagine yourself as an 83, but with more muscle, maybe like a heavy 74. Because I have never, I can't, Ryan, I can't remember the last time I really struggled to hit a 74 weight class
Yeah.
cut. I walked around 76, 77, 77 being like the heaviest ever. So he was like, look, I think these injuries are popping up because you're under recovered. You're not able to sustain the level of intensity that you once did. You have a lot of outside factors happening now with work, with a kid, with life, so on and so forth. So he was like, why don't we bulk up, like do a real bulk over the next however long until you compete, and kind of just see how that goes. Because even if we go, like, let's say we bulk up to 83, like real 83, he's like, we can cut that. He's like, you're not going to put on 10 pounds of muscle to the point where we wouldn't be able to do a water load. So
Hmm.
he was like, why don't we just put on some weight over the next 6 to 9 months, really take this thing serious, and focus on just getting healthy. And that's what we've done. We bulked up. I'm probably like, if and this I haven't mentioned my weight to anybody, um, but I'm like around 80, 81 right now. Uh,
Nice.
yeah,
Nice.
yeah, yeah.
My
So
man.
so
You looked exact same in the face. Like,
you know
like
what's
you don't.
crazy, dude? I feel so good right now at 80, 81. Like I still got a six pack, which is wild. So
Nice.
I'm gaining the muscle in the right areas. Like my legs, I can't fit into jeans, my old jeans. The shirts that I used
Now
to
you flexing all over me right now.
yeah.
Stop.
I can fit I can fit into larges now.
Yeah.
So it was just one of those things, and just to give you guys background as to why we even thought about going bulking to 83. So this next meet I will be competing as an 83, but as we all know, Powerlifting America doesn't require uh totals in the weight class that you're going to be competing at for nationals, at least that I know of right now. That may have changed, I don't know, but right now, at least, that's my understanding. So it only makes sense for me to not have to cut to 74, continue down the path that I'm already going down from a diet perspective, and really just focus on training. So, not that I had a bad relationship with food as a 74, but I was constantly on, Ryan. Like I could count a macro. Like I look at a plate and just say, all right, that's like 400 or 500 calories,
Mm,
X amount of fat, carbs, protein. Now I don't care about a macro. Like I get to eat. I mean, I do care about my protein intake. So I'm trying to get around 175 to 180 grams of protein. But in terms of fat and carbs, like we haven't been tracking. I've been eating what I want, doing what I want. Recovery has been fantastic.
I bet.
So, and that was one of the things that we talked about with Kesrick. I was like, one of the things that I think I had before I had Owen, and I'll speak on this as well because everyone's is different. Because I heard Austin talk about Shell and him saying, if Shell can do it with a kid, I can do it too. Um, every situation is different, right? And for me, it was such a life altering change in work. Like my work is very demanding. So now I also have a kid that I absolutely adore. I love my son to death, and I will do anything for him, such as sacrifice time. So there were times where I wanted to put him to bed, and I would go train right after. But I'm in this mind state now of like I was literally about to go to sleep because I was falling asleep with him. But then I would go train. And it
Mm,
was just like so hard to just get out of that mindset where I would go into a training session and maybe slack on a set, slack on my accessories, just slacking in every area that you could possibly think of. And that's my fault. And I own that. And I think that accumulation over time kind of just screwed me. And I wasn't as prepared as I should have been. But nonetheless, everyone's situation is different. Um, so I was like, look, I'm struggling sleeping. My sleep isn't great. Um, my food is okay, but I just don't feel as recovered as I should after a heavy session or a heavy SBD day. So Kedrick was like, all right, I think nutrition can help you out there. I don't know how much it'll help, but he thinks it'll help. So that's kind of one of the reasons why we decided to go and stick to this bulk to 83. So for October 27th, I will be competing as a heavy
dude,
83.
dude, you mean a light 83?
Well, light
Dude,
83, heavy
yeah, heavy,
74,
heavy
sorry.
74. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
We talked about it last time you were on the podcast, and I was telling you, pull yourself out of the lane of being an 83 like these other 83s and these other 74s. Pick your own lane.
Hmm.
Everyone knows, like you're in the Taylor Atwood lane. 80 kilos is your lane now. And just eat and recover. Your body's going to love the calories and the protein in terms of recovery. If recovery's been an issue, and then you're also not comparing yourself to anyone else.
Hmm.
Nobody's saying because you're not Russell or he cutting from 200 pounds. You're not, you're not at 80, a 74. You're just do your own damn thing. Mentally, what that does for you when you're in a spot like you are, where you got to recover and do all these things. Because you've more than paid your dues. I'm so happy. Like this is the perfect direction for you to take. And also, I think last time we were talking, I was like first off, I think choosing an SBD meet, look, Rally was quote unquote air quotes our local meet, and that was phenomenal.
Yeah, it
Like
was.
SBD is doing it. This isn't going to feel like a normal meet. Let's be honest.
Hmm. Hmm.
Full SBD crew there. It's gonna be wild. It's gonna be phenomenal. But on top of that, maybe you could still do a December meet. I don't know. Maybe you're like, let's keep it moving.
We'll see. We'll see. Look, there is a ton of cards on the table. We have a
Right.
lot of options. And to your point, no, you definitely like when we spoke at Sheffield in February, this past February, um, that was like a mustard seed to a certain extent, but it was there. Like it was rooted. There was already some seeds planted. I kind of at that point I was like, what would it be like if I moved to 83? And we've talked about this. Like the one regret that I really have is not moving up to 83 to really prove like I could be that guy as an 83 as well. So um yeah, I don't know if I'll next year if I'll compete at PA as a 83 yet. But it is on the table. I'll say that. I don't know if I drop down and try to maintain 74 again, how my body's going to react to it. We'll certainly we got 6 months to figure it out. But as of right now, I'm sticking to my walk around body weight, which is around like 80, and we're pushing to get to 81 for the meet.
Like I'm telling you, I mean, you got several avenues, but if you don't do the PA Nats route, you gotta go silent worker. You gotta go to France. I know I've told you this before. They're gonna die. If you show up and this doing the route you're taking right now, if anyone could do some victory laps where you're shaking hands with people like, oh shit, Taylor's here, and you're just in your own little weight class doing your own thing and just having fun and just seeing where your body can do when you're at this in this situation where 80 kilos, 81, whatever, it's you who earned it. If anyone's earned it, you've earned it.
Hmm.
Like, look, I'm not going to go national route. You're trying to qualify for whether it's NAPS or Worlds or whatever. I'm just going to swing around. I'm going to show up at some SBD meets because they do lovely meets. I might show up and you could still do international meets. You could go, listen, you've seen the roster at Silent Workers like Leah Barbara, Petrie, Jurens. You got world champions, reigning
Hmm.
world champions showing up, as well as obviously Penna, Turbo Tiff, world champions. Show up, have fun, dude, they'll love it. And you'll actually take the pressure off of, like, to your point earlier, making weight, gotta win a national title, go to worlds, whatever. And now you could be like, I ain't making weight. I ain't got a track. I'm just gonna smash food, smash weights, tour around the world, have fun. Whatever happens, happens. And there's no pressure. There's zero
No,
pressure.
I have,
You know,
yeah.
if a big total pops off by next silent worker in France in the summertime, so be it. It just pops off. If it doesn't, and you just have fun, you're in the 800 kilos and you're smashing weights, and people are just happy you're there, and you're happy you're there. It's fun, good.
Yeah.
You know what
It,
I mean? It's still good.
no, that's real. I was supposed to actually go to the silent worker meet. It was just unfortunately for work, my actual day job, it was a stupid busy time. So unfortunately, there's 4 times out of the year where I literally, like, if Worlds was happening, I don't know what I would do. It would be very hard to tell work that I have a world championship that I got to go compete at. But for just like leisure stuff, I can't miss those 4 times out of the year. So yeah, unfortunately, I couldn't go this year to the meet for Silent Worker. I was working with Penna and Leah, like, even trying to go in August here for like what was it? God, they wanted to do some type of panel thing, but I couldn't make it.
Well, yeah, there's a European panel I seen. Hack was on
Yeah,
that. Hack Penalia.
yeah. Unfortunately, I couldn't go. So it was that's life, right? It is what it is.
Yeah.
But yes, to your point, I I don't want to have this pressure because, like, we got Joe as 83. We still got Russ. Let's not forget Russ hit 860,
Yeah.
and, like, people are, yes, Joe is making stupid amounts of progress in a short amount of time. But Russ, you can never count Russ out, man. So I still got Russ right now as like the guy to beat for sure. Um, but then, like, you still got Austin, and then I'm like, I no matter what I do, if I go 74 83, I got to go up
Monsters.
against monsters, right? Like, true outliers. And so for me, it's like the path of least resistance. Um, it doesn't exist. It doesn't exist because if I go up to 83, it's like Joe's making like 900. I think is going to be touched by an 83 next year, which,
It's possible.
that's wild to even think about. Although that was on my mind back in 2021, but nonetheless, uh, but then you got Austin, who's also knocking on the door of potentially like 860 plus. And I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to have to potentially, if I go to 83s, if I'm going to be competitive and I want to win because that's who I am, you got to hit 900. That's it. That's the standard. If you drop down to 74 again, you got Austin. 860 plus is the standard. So it's I don't there's no right or wrong answer there. So it's still going to be competitive, but I was like, I just want to enjoy training again. I want to enjoy competing, not having, to your point, this pressure of like stupid shit that I don't have to worry about because I've proven myself. So I've just, like, 83s right now, where I'm at on my weight, it just makes sense for right now. But again, this isn't me confirming that I'm going to 83 next year for PA Nats because I am going to PA Nats next year in April. So you'll see me, and I'm not going there to lose. That's that's the
Here's the thing,
mindset.
like in terms of you, because yes, there's a monster in 83, there's monsters in 83, monsters in 74s. But when you start making decisions now to just be like, I'm gonna put on the blinders and just let my body dictate. Because if I force it, if you're 25 and not 35, maybe you could be like, I'm gonna force my body and let my body's gonna have to shut up and listen.
Yeah.
But if you're 35, you're like, maybe my body's starting to tell me, no, you listen to me. Just
Yeah.
chill. Whatever happens at PA Nats, if there's a monster who's 15 years younger than you, twice your size, and you're like, I don't know if I'm going to beat this guy by April. Here's the thing, Taylor, you got 3 gold medals at the World Championships, 2 silver medals at the World Championships, a bronze medal at the World Championships, and 2-time best lifter at the World Championships. You're good, Playboy. Nobody's, you're not showing up, and people are like, like in terms of you said when you're talking there, I don't really got to prove too much. No, sir, you don't. Okay, how many medals I just rattled off at how many world championships, as well as 2-time best lifter. It's like you're pretty good. You're fine. You are as established gets. Like the guy who's now people are calling, it's not quite as definitive. Pound for pound king would say, Perk is saying Taylor's the GOAT. Taylor's the GOAT. Taylor's MJ. I'll be Kobe. Like this is the respect you get when you show up. So when you show up, it's not like
Although you didn't agree with that.
well, no, I said because he is now not where you're at your career. So I'm like, well, sure, for sure, you're more established now. There's no question. Your resume, I don't know if anyone's got a better resume than you.
Yeah, I
You
think a few people probably do. I
think
was,
so?
I think so. Although, man, like I look back at the career, I forewent my opportunity to go to 2015 Worlds in South Africa. That was the first, like, or no, that was like the second or third Classic World Championship. But my total would have won Worlds that year, coming out of
Ah,
nationals,
dude,
and
why
I
didn't you
didn't
go?
go because I couldn't pay for it. I was like fresh out of college. I didn't have money or the means to do that, so I didn't go. So I missed out on the 2015,
Oh,
and then I got shitted on at 2016 Killeen, Texas, with the technicality on deadlift, just like I did this year
still,
or
but
last
that
year.
silver still
That was
goes to your
silver.
resume.
That was silver.
I,
Um,
I count those. When people count all the medals, when we talk about Olympians, they count like he's got 3 bronze, 3 gold, two silver.
yeah,
It
that's
gets
fair.
tougher and tougher to beat.
That's fair. But nonetheless, it should have been another gold in my book, because there's no way that Alexander, God, he was from Belarus. I forget his last name, Handkerchief or something. But yeah, so
Handkerchief.
2016 handkerchief something. I don't
Sounds
know.
like a children's novel.
That was
This
his.
is your son's children's novel. You're telling me he's a bad guy from Mother
Oh,
Russia
the
called.
Belarusians are gonna hate me.
Right.
But yeah, so 2017 lost his shell, so got silver. Um, then 2018 took my first championship. 2019 went back to back. Then pandemic hit, so we lost out of 2020. Then I didn't go to 2021 in Sweden because I had my son.
You know what?
So,
Can I say something? Your fucking son better appreciate that, sir.
dude,
You bring that. I hope he listens to. You lost a world title for that young man, and every time he acts up, you probably look at him. God, yeah, I could be a 4-time world champion. If
man, well,
hey, when he's 18, that guy better fucking look at you dead in the eyes. Be dad, worlds, worlds. You're like, oh yeah, oh yeah, fucking a world
I,
title I gave up, son.
that's right,
You feel like appreciate that. He can't
dude.
say nothing,
He'll
dude. If I
never
when I'm
he'll
old,
never
when
know.
I'm when I'm a grown up, if I found out my father gave up a fucking world title for my birthday, I'd be like, "God, just fucking go, Playboy. I would have been fine. I wouldn't even known. You could have told me you were there. I don't know. Just I don't know. Bring home the
Uh,
gold for the nation. It's all good. I forgive you. Forgive you. But anyways, it is what it is. Every fucking Father's Day, he better call at 9 a.m. And I want to see flowers, right? Father of the goddamn
every
century is what
goddamn
I
Father's Day.
listen. America
Man,
could have used it. Sweden took a gold medal and America lost it. He's every Father's Day and every Independence Day for that matter for what you did for the nation. He fucking owes you, and that's it. And I'll leave it alone. I'll leave it alone after that.
yeah, he man, I told you I sacrifice anything for that kid, man. I love him to absolute the ends of this planet, this universe. Um, yeah, so didn't go into so lost out on 2020 because of the pandemic. Missed 2021 because of my son was born. Came back 2022, won, and then 2023 lost to Calais, got silver.
Bronze medal. Bronze medal.
Bronze.
So it's
God,
still medal
because
count,
Tim,
but you
yeah.
still got to add those
Jesus.
medal counts, Playboy, because when it's all said and done, um, if you compete in the open for another God knows how many years, every medal is going to count. Whether it's gold, silver, bronze, when you look at a Hall of Fame resume for Olympians and world champions and the whole, it's all gonna add up because
Yeah,
they can't just compare you. They can't just say, well, someone else has got 3 gold. That's cool. Taylor's also got 2 silver, a bronze, and 2 best lifters. You got to say it all. You got to
that's
throw it
true.
all in there. This
That's
is
true.
harder to beat. That's how I would do your PR work, anyways. But that's cool. That's good. But also, right? But
No, it is. It's fair.
you know what I was thinking? I was talking to somebody in the DMs, and we were talking about how obviously Russell, when this split happened, went USAPL route
Hmm.
instead of the IPF. Now there was nothing for sure about if he went the IPF, he would have won those 2 worlds. We don't know that because obviously Delaney was there and Delaney broke the world record as well.
That's right.
And Delaney bested Jurens twice to win 2 world titles and broke the world record. And Jurens bested Russ. So if Russ showed up, it doesn't mean for sure Russ wins or anything. But in this hypothetical, if we're just going to walk down this hypothetical for a second here, if Russ went IPF and did win, the difference in legacy package from 2 world titles to 4. Let's say he
Big.
didn't even win. You know what? Let's fuck it. Let's say Delaney won one of those and he won one of those. Let's give Delaney that. So now Russ has 3 world titles and 2 silver. Still hits different.
Hmm.
Like you're talking about 5 world championships, and out of 5, he won 3 and 2 silvers. Like it just everything
That's a
hits
great
different.
success rate.
It's just everything hits different. Or you take yourself entirely out of the conversation, go USAPL route. In history, at the time, I think people were thinking, like, okay, I'm not going to do this isn't 2020 revisionist history. Obviously, I picked my bed and laid in it. But I knew like when the dust settles, the USAPL isn't going to be where it's at and the IPF will. And as when we look back 10 years from now, nobody's USAPL national titles aren't going to mean as much. And you'll be like, frig, guys, there's a couple years in your prime. You
Yeah.
chose the path and collected another title. And like, it's like, God, man, imagine,
I'll give you one sound bite, Ryan.
give it to me. Give it to me.
So everyone like when I backed out of nationals this year at PA Nats, they said I was ducking Perk. Perk said I was ducking him too. I know we felt that way too. But where were you 2 years? 2021, 2022, and 2023. Well, 2022, 2023. Where were you? Perk, you were back in USAPL. You had your chance. Like you were like, oh, I have my chance to beat Taylor now and blah blah blah. Where were you those 2 years? You had your shot. You could have come over to USA or Powerlifting America, and you chose not to. So like when people say I was ducking them, I'm like, who was ducking who? Because I was here. I was ready for the smoke. I was in my prime. uh, and whether or not he was, or it doesn't matter. But like, if anyone was ducking anyone, it's like you had your shot to come over. Like, because people were saying they weren't gonna. The reason why the top lifters didn't come over to PA Nat, some of the top lifters, was because they were like, no, like the competition's in USAPL, so I'm gonna stay over there. He doesn't have that excuse. I went to PA. I went to
Well,
PA. So he could have followed suit and been like, "No, I'm following you. I want you." And this is what hurt me the most, Perk. When you said I wasn't a competitor, I was like, "Dude, I'm your ultimate competitor. Like, come." I was begging people to come over and compete against me, but like no one was there. So I'm that is the last I'm gonna address this ducking because I get it in my DM sometimes too, and I get it in some of the comment section where they thought
that's the
they were
wildest
like, yeah,
the thing.
it is.
Like during that time, I remember telling you you were not only were you the reigning king of 74s, but like pound for pound king as well. So you don't chase someone else. Like someone obviously has to come to you. You were
Right.
the guy. You
Yeah.
were literally had. Here's another thing on your resume. There was three formulas: Wilks, Goodlift points, and dots. You had all three in your
Mm-hmm.
prime. I don't know if that's been done before, but you had all three. You were IPF World's champion, IPF World's best lifter, and had all three formulas. That's pretty fucking dominant, huh? So for someone to say like nobody would be like you have to chase someone else. It'd be like no.
Yeah.
I'm I'm the fucking whale, and everyone else on the small fish gotta chasing me, feeding off of me. I'm the guy, the trendsetter. And but in terms of Perk now saying ducking or whatever, I can't remember if that's what he said, but if you're saying this what he said, I believe you. I can't remember now, but
No,
he's doing what
he didn't say that. He didn't say that
okay.
explicitly, but I know that's how he felt.
Here's the thing.
I,
Even with that, when it comes to the competitors, you know I give huge grace because he should try to lure you because that's his
yeah,
best interest.
of course.
His best interest, but it is your best interest to not be lured and to stay in your own lane.
Well,
That's
look,
why both of you guys are doing exactly what you're supposed to do.
it's just
Is
it doesn't hit the same, Ryan. It doesn't hit the same because he wasn't saying that. Was he? He was actually pretty like confident coming into 2021 Nats. Um, so I'll give him that. I'll give him that. He was still pretty. I wouldn't say cocky. He was still chirping. Um, Leading into that nationals, and he did like after he hit uh that 800 the first time during the pandemic. He was like, "I told you guys, I told you." So like he lived up to the to his word. So I'll give him that for sure. And I respect Austin, man. Like he's a great competitor. Seeing what he's doing now is is inspirational to a certain extent. Um and I'm excited to see what he does at Sheffield next year. To see like what his top end is, because of course we all kind of have an idea, but for him to actualize it on a meet day is going to be um, potentially like that 838 meet that I had, where it's like maybe he pulls like a rabbit out of his ass and goes like 880. Like if he goes
is
880 plus, like that would be insane.
as a career 74, even though you're going 83 now, which I co-sign this decision, but as a career 74, do you find yourself almost cheering for the 74s in like, for instance, your old nemesis, but also comrades in the 74s, Shell and Perk, both 1 and 2 at IPF Worlds for
Hell
best
yeah.
lifter.
Hell
And then,
yeah.
like, are you like the 74s?
I have to. I have to.
Yeah.
It look 74 is my class, man. That's like I wanted to leave my name in the record books as like the best 74. There was no one like not no one that was ever as good, but like he left a legacy in the 74s. And that was what I wanted. That was my legacy. That's what I wanted. So that's why I've stayed 74 for so long. But like now that I'm not competing right now, at least for the last 15 months, at least as a 74, seeing others still take on that legacy and making the 74s relevant, still relevant, because I feel as if like 83s and 93s are the talk of the town still. But
Mm,
like I've always been one to be like, no, the small guys are here, man. Like I I yes, weightlifting is great. Like seeing Jesus or Rondell or these guys hit insane totals at that body weight. I'm like, it's impressive, very impressive. Then that's what everyone wants to see. But I was like, no, nah, I'm going against the grain. Like I want people to pay attention to the smaller weight classes, and I love what Pana has done for the 66s. I Sergey kind of like he's just not as like what he has done. It wasn't like the social media era, so he wasn't able to, I think, capitalize on like the total that he's been able to put up.
mm.
But even Sergey, like the smaller guys, I've always looked up to the smaller guys for some reason because I've been one. I don't know if you remember Anthony, the Ant. He used to pull like he was a 66, but he used to pull like 650, almost 700 pounds.
What?
I don't you don't remember him? He was like in the animal cage. He had dreads. Uh,
This is starting to
Black
ring a bell
guy.
to me.
God, he used to pull with Dan Green all the time.
Was he
Um,
natty though, or was he tested or
nah,
untested?
he wasn't. He was untested. But I used to
Okay.
watch like these animal cages, and I used to like I grew up on Dan Green. I grew up on these guys like Mark Bell.
Mm.
So watching them and watching him, I was always impressed with him because he was always pulling like 5 times his body weight and stuff like that. But when you get into the cage, you got Dan Green pulling like 800, 900 pounds. It just didn't hit the same. But for me, I was like pound for pound, that guy blows everyone out of the water here. So I just wanted to be that as like a tested guy. I wanted to bring the smaller guys onto the map and put them on the map and hopefully be able to do justice when we hit numbers. And like I feel like I did that. I helped out with the smaller weight classes. And making us relevant. And now seeing Austin and Shell what they're doing, I love it. I love it.
What do you think in terms of so in your prime, it was pretty freaking undisputed. You were the pound for pound king. Like I just said, like you had everything, right? Now, people would probably lean towards Austin. I'm going to lean towards Austin, but there's certain caveats that people are throwing out. And let me give you an impression.
Mm-hmm.
So you have Bob, who's
Mm-hmm.
phenomenal. He's a 105 and he won the 120s. And the difference between 105 and 120 kilos is fucking great.
That's
you know,
wild.
and he's like, don't get clapped by a 105. Famous. That's a cold, icy cold one liner, and it was phenomenal. And he said
Oh,
it
I
before
felt
the night
yeah.
before, which is like such a
But he
talk
weighed
about put
didn't he weigh in at 105?
105 point something. Yes, he literally was a 105. And it's such a bold claim when you're so much smaller than everyone else. I love it. Like I love Bob being around. And then, but you also have guys like Rondell, who through politics wasn't able to compete. And
Mm-hmm.
he's like, what he did with the 120s, he's like, I feel like it's like what Atwood or a Perk has done to the 74s. He's like,
Oh, it
I just
has.
won't get that kudos. So
Yeah.
then there's a pound for pound. The bigger you are, the worse pound for pound works in your favor. I think like
Mm-hmm.
people just stop looking your way when you talk pound for pound. But is Rondell too big to be, or like are people not looking his way because he's so big?
Rondell I think is in an interesting um dilemma because you have Jesus. Like
There's another guy.
so you're comparing your like no when you see someone like Rondell, you automatically because he's so big, you're automatically already he's already in that weight class like of or in that class and tier of like a Jesus. You're looking at Jesus and you're like, damn, can you compare the two? At least that's how I see it. I don't know how others may view it, but I see it as like, what he did was no one has ever done. So yes, I think he's up there now with like myself, Austin, what Joe's doing, what Jesus did, Bob's doing at 105, which is crazy. But I just did, he did it. I think his 1,000 kilo total doesn't get enough credit because Austin hit 851 at the same meet, and that's what everyone was kind of had their eye on. So like it was almost like Joe also he hit 800, but Austin hit 851, so that kind of got swept under the rug. But he was the third because I don't think Shell had hit 800 yet. I think he was the third 74 to ever hit 800.
And he was a junior,
And he was a
obviously.
junior, and that was like I DM'd him immediately, and I was because I didn't even know that happened until I saw Austin, and then I saw Joe right underneath as 800. I was like, dude, you hit 800, and he was a junior. So Austin at that meet just took the show from everyone, in my opinion. So it was tough for Rondell, but I think it was an impressive, like super impressive as a 120 to hit 1,000 kilograms. Like he was talking shit initially, and I was like, dude, shut your mouth until you actually do it. But when he did it, I was like, all right, I'll shake your
There
hand.
you go.
Like, you did
Hats
it.
off to you then. Hats off
You
to you
are,
then. You,
yeah. Like you did it, man. And we DM'd a ton because I there was a lot that I didn't know about his story, and I felt as if again I was talking last year very coming from a cornered position in my opinion and kind of my situation where people were really coming at me, and I was just tired of it at that point, and I was like, dude, everyone is trying to like kick a dog while he's down. I was like, fuck it, like it shouldn't even blah blah blah, and I said what I said, and then we soundbited it. So it, I've reconciled with Rondell. There's still some I don't see eye to eye with him on a few things, but nonetheless, like I still respect him as a lifter and what he's done now, hitting that 1,000 kilograms. So I just, yeah, what we're doing in these different weight classes now, what Jesus did for the heavyweights, heavyweights, um, Rondell's gonna really have to do that even though I like it's crazy because I hit my 838 and a half at USAPL Nats, not internationally. But we called it like one of the best performances ever. But then Rondell hits 1,000, and then some people or some of the community were like, "Oh, he didn't do it internationally," and this and that. So I don't know if it was like this just because USAPL had split from the IPF, it was kind of you had the IPF people saying it's not legitimate because USAPL isn't a part of the IPF anymore. But in my opinion, I thought it was right up there with my performance as the 838 and a half and Austin's 851. Like we can't not talk about that. So yeah, it's just insane kind of where we're headed. And I think this is a good segue to go into the 83s and what Joe's doing.
let me
If
ask you one. Let me ask you one more question though about
okay.
how do we crown a pound for pound king? Because with you, like I'm not sure about the answer on this, by the way. And I don't know if there's with you, it was easy because you had all the formulas
Hmm.
as well as all the major titles. So it became like that was easy. If someone's like, no, it's not him, it's like, well, who the fuck is it? Because you had all you had all the formulas. Like it didn't make sense.
Yeah.
Whereas now Perk is dominant, but we're in a weird situation where there's a couple people who could lay different claims. And I would side in the Perk direction, and perhaps you do too as well. But because for me, what helped Perk, for me, I'm saying when he took IPF best lifter, as well as he's got two of the three major formulas. So it's like, for me, that's good. We're good. But it isn't quite. Do you think I don't know if we're going to get a guy who does all the formulas like you did, as well as IPF Worlds, as well as IPF Worlds best lifters and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know.
Well,
Is it
for
vacant are
let's
you like, it has to be all of that or it's vacant? Or you're like, no, we can't have a vacant throne. Give it to the guy who's got 2 to 3 or whatever. Like, how does it work?
yeah, for at least how I'm viewing it, because um we, I think the USAPL standards are still pretty darn good. Are and we talk about IPF, but IPF, as quote unquote strict as they are, it's still very subjective, in my opinion. Like there's calls where you look and it's the same call, but one gets 3 red lights and then another gets 2 white lights. And it like I've done analysis on that of how did that get 3 reds, but another got 2 whites. So there's some subjectiveness still in judging, even at the highest of levels in the IPF. And there's subjectiveness in USAPL as well. So when we when I think about who performances, where they're done, how they're done, um, I will have to side with the IPF because it is international. Even though I hit 838, it was in the US and whatnot, but still nonetheless, like I still have to side with the IPF and where it was done internationally. And as of right now, Perk hit 838 at Worlds.
Yeah, around there. I can't remember the exact, but
Yeah, and he weighed in at what, like 72 or
yeah, he was
73?
light.
Like he was really light. So, and he hit, I think like I know his dots was off the charts. Um, and then I don't know where his Wilks is right now, but, and then IPF points. And he's done it at the highest level, IPF, traveling, as much as people don't want to call it. Like it all plays a factor. I don't care what anyone says. So for me, I have to lean towards Perk being the best pound for pound, and that isn't just because he's a 74. I'm not biased in that opinion, but like I just can't give it to like a Rondell just yet because
Or a
even though he's
Bob.
got no, not even Bob. I mean,
It's close. Like these
it's
guys are
so
good.
close.
I'm
God,
agreeing. I agree with you. I'll give it to Perk. But it's closer than when you were there.
where? What did
It's
Bob hit?
Bob as a 105 won the
Yeah,
120s and he hit, like, we could pull up his. Are you talking like Wilkes or whatever? Let's take a look here.
yeah. I'm trying to see right
And
now.
Rondell also, like, frig man, what he did to the 120s. And people will be like, yeah, well, Bob's a 120, so then Rondell has to be over him. Sort of. Bob's actually a 105. Like, that's what makes it difficult to look past them. So it's like, listen, all these guys are phenomenal. All these guys are like if somebody's told me I think Bob is pound for pound king, I'm not laughing. I'm like, you know what? You could probably argue that. I'm gonna side with Perk, but if someone said I got Rondell, I got Bob, I'd be like, you know what? You could be right. I wouldn't argue too hard on it. It's not quite, we don't have a situation where it was you. You froze for a second there. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can
Okay,
hear
you're
you.
good. You're good. Okay.
Yeah,
Um, no, it's not quite as definitive as when you had all the formulas and whatnot. But you know what? Here's another thing I want to say. When we were talking about your resume, and now I'm thinking more and more, Worlds is becoming so crazy in terms of how competitive it is. I really do believe when you say silver or bronze at Worlds, in years to come, like, you look at what's coming down the pipeline at the 83s, you take a look at these guys coming from the UK. There's Addy, who's about to blow up Western European Championships. And
mm-hmm.
then coming from US, you have Joey B. To come in silver, bronze, or whatever in fields like this, when you have 83s are going to start pushing to 900 kilos, it is crazy on the resume. It is crazy. I really do think in your prime, you're going to be like, man, I don't even count my silvers and bronze. I guarantee you, when you're 65 looking back, you'll be like, yes, 3 golds, yes, 2 best lifters, but also 3 other medals on top of that. My medal count talk about my medal count. Like, because I think it's going to be more and more important. Like, if Russ's silver is still a silver at Worlds, and if moving forward he picks up a gold, a silver, a bronze, and then checks out, all those medals go towards his medal count. Like, I think
That's fair.
later on, as as the sport gets more and more competitive, it'll be crazier and crazier just to get anything.
I
But
agree. I agree. No, I agree. Um, but yeah, I'm looking at the numbers now. I have to give it to Austin. Like he's got dots by a landslide. Um, he's got good lift points. Like I,
and he's
yeah,
got best lifter.
he's
You're like,
got
well,
best
that's
lifter. Like
he's
um,
proven it in the big show. It's one thing to have good
exactly.
lift points, but yeah, he won it on the big show.
He's yeah. I got to give it to him, and he's second in Wilkes, and I mean Wilkes favored the heavier guys, so Jesus was
100%.
number one, and we know this for a fact. It's a mathematical fact that Wilkes does favor heavier lifters. So for him to be number two behind Jesus, who is a heavier lifter, is impressive in my opinion. So yeah, I mean Rondell's number eight. He still passes 600, but it's even though Wilkes favors heavier lifters, Austin still beat him. So yeah, I have to go with Austin.
So what do you I agree by the way, but it's always fun to have these discussions, man. It's always
It's tough though,
all
man. It's tough, and it's great. I like having these discussions because, of course, I know people don't like formulas, and there's certain things that formulas don't have, but and of course we all want to see just some heavy ass weight lifted. But for me, again, being the lighter lifter, I'm never going to squat 1,000 pounds. Let's be real. like it is never going to happen. So in order for me to even stay like in the talks and have these discussions of like who's the best pound for pound. Of course, I'm not going to be as strong as Jesus or Rondell or Bob, uh, but being able to even be put in those discussions of like who's the best, and be able to have objective data, I think is even though like some of the formulas have changed over time. Don't get me wrong, but to your point, it's like I had all three at one point, so that's why I'm more in favor of formulas than probably
you
some
also
are.
had
But
titles. You
and I
also
had
had
titles.
titles.
That's right.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Like that's the difference where you weren't a dude who's staying on local meets or sidelines or in some obscure federation
yeah,
collecting. You were like,
that's
you
fair.
went
No,
to IPF Worlds for God's sake, and you
yeah,
came through
two
America to
time.
do it.
Yeah,
So, yeah, yeah. So
yeah.
that's why it would help. Let me ask you this because we were talking about also before we get into 83s, but we were also talking about you were listing off like you missed 2015 Worlds, you missed 2021 Worlds, like some of the things you missed that could greatly impact when you look back your resume. Now you had a lot of things go your way. Like by no means this is a sad story. However,
No.
and we just also talked about how Russ chose
Hmm.
USAPL route, could have went IPF route. Whether he won two golds, a gold, a silver, or whatever would have happened, resume would have hit different maybe. What would you say to a Bob Matthews, whom for some reason is humming and hawing about going to Sheffield? And this is wild to me because life is short and you can look back and have certain regrets and be like, God damn it. Like, you can't do nothing about the birth of your son, but 2015, you're like, what if I would have hit something up for a loan? I should have went to the whatever. I don't know. I don't know. Right. 2015 powerlifting wasn't as big either. So probably wasn't worth it. But
Yeah.
if you're thinking about Bob's situation, for
Hmm.
me, I cannot fathom how you would say no thank you to Sheffield. Even if you weren't 100%, I'm so glad you got to experience it and be involved and hit that stage. Like, imagine that was taken
Dude.
from you. Imagine you didn't.
Well, I almost as you know, I had food poisoning the night before. Well, about 36 hours out. Um, so I almost dropped out of the Sheffield because I just like I didn't think I was going to be able to compete. But I was so happy, like so happy that I mustered up the courage to get onto that platform and experience that because uh, it, I felt like, again, I think I mentioned this in the podcast, but I felt like I was conductor of an orchestra with that crowd where you have them yelling at you, and with just a simple hand raise, the energy and yelling and screaming from them was I can't explain it. It was the the power that you have as a single person in a room full of 2,000 people. It was just insane. So for anyone to, even if you're like 80 to 85% going into that meet, but you can still place, go, man, experience
Yeah.
it and do what you have to do. You're not, in my opinion, you deserve to be there regardless of if you're not 100%. You won world, so you're not taking anyone else's spot because you deservingly got it. Unless you're a wild card, maybe that's a little dicey, but if you won your world championship and you got the first bid, go, regardless of even if you're taking the bar. And that's me. That it may sound selfish. But I don't care. But it's the experience, man. You never know when your next meet will be. You could, God forbid, something happens and you have a life threatening injury or something, and you can't lift anymore, and you decided to pull out of the biggest meet of your life because you weren't 100%. It's like I'm not at this point in my career, powerlifting career. I am not taking anything for granted. I forewent 2021 because of my son for sure, but like I didn't think much. I was like, oh, I got next year. Oh, I got the year after. Oh, I'm double. And here I am, almost 4 years, 3 years later, uh, and I won one world championship and got a silver at another, and then I missed this year. So, and who knows? Like, I don't know if I'm ever going to go back to a world championship. Like, of course, I like to think that I'm going to be able to compete with Austin, compete with Joe, but like, who knows? You know? So I'm taking every opportunity that I can to relish in every competition that I'm in because you never know when your next one will be. So if Bob, you're listening to this, man, like, dude, go. Don't even think twice about it. And anyone else that got invited to Sheffield, like, you deserve it. There was criteria, you met the criteria, go. You're not stealing anyone's spot. This isn't worlds. You're not like, you deserve to be there. They chose you for a reason. So relish in it, respect it, and go.
I mean,
How I feel.
I'm glad you threw out there. In it hits different from a veteran like you who's done everything.
Mm-hmm.
It hits a little different when it's like you've hit and you've missed out on things due to life circumstances and the whole you felt it all, right? You felt it all in your lifetime. And yeah, you can't take for granted. Well, next year, the other year, whatever. You got freaking 120s like Nanzo from the UK who's 19 years old. And they're talking about him at Junior Worlds breaking the world record, the open world record. Nanzo, who's 19, 120. And next year, he's talking about doing 1,000 kilos. He's 19. He's a teenager. You know,
Dude,
you can't
it's
take for
it's
granted,
wild.
and then Rondell's back and whatever. Like, who knows what the hell the future's going to look like?
Mm-hmm.
People are popping up all over the place. There's a freaking, I had Joey on here with Russ, and we're talking about a 17-year-old 83 who's like he's crushing crazy weights in the gym. And then Ade from UK, there's 83s rising. It's nuts what's happening right
What
now.
do you think is causing that?
I'm not sure, dude, but right now at this pivotal moment, things are getting wild. Things are getting really,
It's
really wild.
getting insane, right? I
Nobody's
feel
safe.
like I don't know. I'm really curious to hear your opinion or anyone. Like when this comes out, please let us know. What do you think the leading indicator and factor is for seeing the amount of strength we're seeing just rise out of nowhere?
The 83s in particular
It's insane.
is wild because forever, for half a decade, you had Russ 20 kilos spread and everybody else,
Yeah,
roughly. He's coming to
not
nationals
me,
not even
but yeah,
100%.
others
He's
species.
coming. What's that? Well, yeah, yeah. Yeah. 5 kilo spread with you. But he's coming to nationals not even 100%, and he'd win. And then all of a sudden, in the 83s, we got juniors doing 865. And I'm telling you, Ade Omasakin from UK,
Hmm.
he's he he's going to be so. You have Jones and Russ at Sheffield, and obviously Sheffield is based off of world records. At the Western European Championship, not a highly coveted title,
Hmm.
but the biggest piece of the Western European Championship, world records can be broken
Yeah.
there. And while almost every year nobody's looking at the Western European Championship, this year you might wanna. This year you're gonna
What do
wanna
you think? What do you think he's gonna
because
hit?
the implications of what Ade's going to do is going to impact the biggest show in the world for powerlifting, Sheffield.
Mhm.
And Germans and Russ, who are have the biggest showdown ever, they better be paying attention to Western Championships and what's going to happen over there. Ade, I got a feeling, my friend, I would not be shocked at all if he goes over 860.
Really?
Oh yeah,
Wow.
yeah, yeah.
860. That's bold.
He's going to do. I would not be if you told
How
me
much does he weigh?
he's comfortably in 83. I don't think he cuts
Okay.
hard. He cuts. He's jacked. He's
He's
jacked.
huge. Yeah.
Yeah. But I don't know like how tall he is and how much he cuts, if he cuts hard, if
Hmm.
that's because you're right. Like the more time goes, the more jacked he gets. Does that become an issue? Whatever, like
He's
shit happens,
huge.
right?
I've seen him.
We'll only have to see. But time will tell on that one. However, I'm interested. Does he go 867 and a half and try to beat Joey B and be the front runner and the number 183 in the world? Oh, by the way, though, he will not only be because Joey B did it at a local level, but he can raise his hand and be like, excuse me, I'm not only the number 183, I'm the world record holder, though. This is IPF standards because it'll be IPF officiating.
Yeah.
It's a little bit different. He could be like, yes, but. So when you talk about the world record at Sheffield, you have to mention my name. I'm not going to be at Sheffield, but I'm going to be there though, aren't I? In a lot of ways,
Mm-hmm.
aren't I? And he will. He'll be right. His name will be undeniably have to be said.
Hmm.
He's there, even if he's not there. It's a really well played piece by him.
It is. Personally, I think he should just hit what he has to hit to break the world record. Not just break it or chip it, but like comfortably break the world record if it's there on the day. And don't give a shit about what's happened with Joey B. And that's respectfully to Joey. Like Joe Bornstein is, he's in a different bracket now. He's in a different tier. So nothing against him. Just saying, like, don't worry about what he has done at a local level, U.S. Like that is always going to be the asterisk of his 865 currently. If he can break it at an international level, the current world record, to your point, the biggest stage of powerlifting right now with the Sheffield, his name is going to be there. And if he's chasing something and on his squat, he's supposed to hit a number, and if he doesn't hit that number, and now all his numbers kind of screw up for bench
Right?
and deadlift, now he doesn't even have a shot of his name being mentioned at Sheffield, the biggest stage in powerlifting currently. So if you're listening, who I would personally just do what you have to do comfortably to break the current world record. I think it's 843.
Yeah, it's around
Um,
there.
so that's what I would do. If he can hit 850, 850 plus, I would stay around there. And then just be like, I'm here. Internationally, I'm here. And then you want to go do another meet, local meet, whatever it is, and hit 865 plus, go do it. But this is your chance to solidify your world record total and have your name mentioned at Sheffield in January. I think it's January 31st.
January. So 845 is the world record I just checked.
Okay.
So here's the thing. I'll tell you right now. I've talked to Addy in the DMs. My man he's bold. He's brave and bold, and
Well,
he's
how old is he?
strong.
19, 17?
No, that's Nanzo. This Addy
Oh,
is. Let me pull up. Let me. That's a good question. I think he's 25. He's young.
oh, he's
He's in his prime,
okay.
but he's
Okay.
he's no
Okay.
junior though.
No, he's not a
He's like
junior. Yeah.
no. He's
He
a
was jacked
mature.
as shit, man.
He's jacked as shit. Oh yeah. He doesn't show off like Russ, but he could.
He could 100%.
Yeah. Let's take a. Yeah. He's 25 years old.
Okay.
Uh, so he's entering into like prime time. When you're like, holy shit, the gains are coming. You're like, what the hell is going on right now? And the sky's the limit. He's in my DMs telling me I'm not gonna. He told me in private the numbers he was thinking, so I don't want to throw it out there because he hasn't said it publicly. But I'll tell you this: it's bold.
Well,
It,
look,
it
man.
is.
Like,
It is. It is. Let me tell you something. It is. It's like I'm like, Adi, are you serious? He's like, oh yeah. Oh yeah, yeah.
I love it.
He should. Yeah, I know. I mean, it's fun. It's for sure fun. It's like thank God that it's fun. But he could be in a situation where if his strength levels are as strong as he believes, he might be taking that world record on like seconds or like well before solidify the world record and not put it in danger to push
On
it to your
seconds.
point. Because dude, if his numbers are like not like by the time Deads rolls around, I mean, if his numbers are real, you know what? I don't want to get too far ahead, but
Yeah, well, yeah.
I'm telling you, dude, Sheffield is going to be different now if he does what he wants to do. And then you have like moving ahead to the future, people are like, well, what does this mean? What if Joey B he's 865 in August, was it? Or July?
Hmm.
865? By the time next April rolls around, he's 21. Is he 880? 15 more kilos? Probably.
Yeah.
And so is he going to be the guy going to worlds now? And Russ isn't? And then people are like, my DMs are full when these kind of things happen. Well, as you would imagine, because I'm reposting these guys too. And then you have Omasakin who's coming up, and people are like, well, if he does what the hype is next world's going to be this world's it's UK versus USA and it's Russ versus Jones. If already by next year it's Ade versus Joey B and it's a whole nother cast.
That's
So people are
crazy.
like, how quickly is the sport changing? I'm like, look, I'm not ready to say that. I'm not ready to hear this right now. First off, you know, like there's a lot that's got to happen
Well, shit.
before
What
all
if
this.
Austin moves up to 83?
He better he better
It's
rock and roll
wild,
quick, man.
right?
Because even Austin was like, look at I know people talk about the 74s chasing 83s, all the way back to yourself, right? Like it becomes like the 74s have been like you turn them into showstoppers, right? Like the big premier, the 74s. So from you through Austin, through whatever, whoever's the 74 champ, people talk about going 83, which is a tip of the hat to the 74s, to your point. However, starting to get into an era where even Austin on the last podcast was like, hey, listen, he's like, these fucking fellas start hitting like 880, 890. He's like, I'm all good. I'm like, it's like, all right, 83s, we're going to stop. We're going to stop. The 74s are going to stop talking shit about 83s real quick and be like,
Well,
all
that's
right.
wild, right? Like I didn't even my goal as a 74 was never to out total the 83s. Like I didn't even know that was a possibility until 2021 at Nats. And now like I feel that's how it should be. It should be like the next weight class up should be have such a far gap from or a healthy gap. not a far, but a healthy gap to the weight class below them, because it gives us incentive as the weight class down to potentially move up and say, well, let's test the limits in the next weight class because I'm now just I filled out 74s or whatever it is, and let's see what it is at 83. But like that again, and that's why I have always said like my one regret was not to move up to 83 because I know I could have been an 83 world champion. I know I could have. Respectfully to Russ, I just believe that if I put on more weight, I could have beat him. So,
Or Delaney at the time. You also would have went head to head
or
with Delaney in
Delaney, yeah.
2022.
Yeah. So I could have beat Delaney too. Respectfully, love those two though. For like, there's no ill will against those two. Love them. I'm just speaking competitively. So like to hear Austin as like the premier 74 now say I don't want to mess with the 83s, like think about that. Think about to the era that we're getting into now of man, the standard next year at the end of next year potentially is 900.
Look at Joey B said literally this being like, Austin, stay where you're at. You're all good. Because if you come up,
Really?
he's literally like
Ooh.
he's like, look at if we battle for who can extend the world record, like Sheffield style, or we battle for points, cool. But he's like, if you come up to 83, it won't even be competitive. It's not gonna even gonna be a show. That's what Joey B
Damn.
is like, man, my man's got his chest out. And I love the bold talk.
Rightfully
Like,
so.
what are we doing here? We're competitors. I love the bold talk too. And it is like, and
He's
Joey B like
21
is like
too, right? Like all full
21,
of piss and vinegar.
21 and a savage. And
Not 22.
that's you better believe you're on. You feel me. Um, but yeah, it's fun hearing guys talk like that. But I do think you're right. Like 83s are starting to level up to a point where not a bad thing necessarily. Where a guy like Austin's like, all right, Austin could still be pound for pound king,
Yeah.
but he just might be like
But let's
maybe
talk about
that
the
top.
93s, right? Like what's happening in the 93s now? Do you think so Gavin hit 901. Emil was pretty darn close at Worlds.
How good did that feel for Gavin to live up to how long
Whoa, fuck. It's controversial, right? Like
it's always going to be with Gavin. Hey, listen, has Gavin ever had an uncontroversial meet?
Never.
This guy's got training sessions that
Oh
are
my
controversial.
god.
You know what I'm saying? This guy's this is Gavin's life, man.
That's his dude,
I
life
want no
story.
different. My man's from the
Controversy.
Bronx. It is what it is.
6 foot in Tim's.
This is 6 foot. My man's 6 foot in Tim's, man. Can't tell me any otherwise. Cannot tell me otherwise.
Hey, I'm right there with him.
Um, exactly. It's but how like for all of like Gavin's been chasing and trying to be number one and like everything that Gavin is, for him to be the first 93 to cross 900, it's not even take the world record. That's one thing, but the first to cross 900, fuck, it was me. Like, you crossed 800 and you were the first to cross 800. You know
Yeah.
what it is. So when you're chasing the new barrier and it's like there's 93s are so stacked and the Gavin to get across that 93 to be like, holy fuck, I did it.
Well, I think to that point, man, great. That's a great point. No one knew, or it was kind of like it's kind of like that in the U.S. It's the 40 or 365 or 405 or 315 bench. It's like you can't do it until you do it, you know. And then once you do it, you can do it again and again and so on and so forth. So like now that someone has finally, regardless of whether it was controversial or not, doesn't matter. It's official. It's 901. That is the new standard, and you're either going to break it or you're not. And I think personally that lit a fire under other 93's asses to like, fuck this. I have to get stronger. 900 now is not even a question. How do I get to 950? That, at least that's how I would be looking at it. Like if I'm a 93, if you're really trying to be quote unquote an outlier, it's not 900. You're not an outlier at 900. Sorry. if you're getting into that 925 to the 950 ranges, then you're like, oh, all right, these guys are serious. And
Yeah.
I'm not kidding. And Rondell has said this before too, where I think I agree with him. You're not a power lifter until you hit 500 dots. And like, not saying you're not a 93, you're not a power lifter until you hit 950. But what I'm
Oh,
saying is,
Jesus.
it should be that should be your standard. That should be your goal, not 900. The 900 is done. Like when I hit 800, it was like I don't want to hit 800. I want to hit above 800. I hit 812. So like, get the 900 out of your mind. It doesn't exist anymore. It's done. It's broken. Okay, let's move on. Give Gavin props. Like, first to do it, give him his flowers. Um, but now it's like, all right, if I'm another 93, I'm putting my work hat on, and I'm getting in the gym, and I'm not accepting anything less than 950. That would be my mindset. That's how I would approach it. And it's like, that's when I think you're going to start seeing a lot of 93s breaking past the 900 barrier now that Gavin's done it.
Gotta be.
It's the 4 minute mile. Um, Once someone's done it, it's like, oh shit, he did it. Why can't I do it? Austin has said that too. He's like, I saw Taylor doing it. Why couldn't I do it? And he's doing shit that no one else has been doing. Rondell, same thing. He broke the 1,000 kilograms. He's gonna probably do that again. Jesus, just absolutely crushing it. So like, I think the 93s right now, we're gonna start seeing next year. People start breaking into the 925s, in my opinion.
Podium next year at Worlds will all be 900 kilos and up. It has to be.
Has
I
to.
guarantee you.
Dude,
Forever they were
a
hitting.
meal was a fucking deadlift away for 900.
Yeah, it's crazy. Look at Kaiko. Did you see
Geico,
Kaiko rallying
dude,
back now?
he hit 895 in training.
Welcome back, Jonathan Kaiko.
Dude,
For,
it's
for the minute
wild.
he did a throwback to some training and got me all like excited. And I repost him. Look who's coming back, and he was like, he had to burst the bubble. Like that's actually a throwback to a training session. Not many people do throwback to training sessions. People
Oh
do
shit,
throwback to like,
did he get me then?
well, no. This is like a month and a half ago, 2 months ago.
uh
Since then, it's been legit. It's been like it's been current. So what you
okay.
saw was current, and
Got it.
he is
Got it.
legit currently destroying the bench press world record and legit hitting
Dude,
like
he hit
he's
250.
he's dog. He's right back.
Bro.
He's right back, and then some, and then some. And if you look at what his social media is going on, he hasn't competed like you. He's taking time off. He posts a picture and it thousands and thousands and thousands of likes. Like he's finding his own. He's
Yeah.
finding his own rhythm, and people are hungry for it.
Yeah.
And he's
Yeah.
he's always going to be a fan favorite.
No, he's just his spirit. Him and his wife. Um,
She's super nice, Nina.
Dude, Nina's phenomenal. I DM her, no disrespect to Keiko. It's
You
all
son of a
love. It's
bitch.
all
Oh,
love.
stay out of his wife's DMs. Conor
It's all
McGregor.
it's all love. Like, no, I'm not
Yeah,
trying to do
don't
nothing.
worry.
Trust
We
me.
got it. We got
But
it.
anyway,
Don't
no,
explain
because
too much. It gets
you know
weird.
how
Don't
shit gets.
explain too much.
No, because
You can only explain
some
so
people
much.
take that shit a certain way. Because I mentioned to someone, I'm not gonna mention names, but I was like, yeah, I DM'd her the other, and they're like, that's so and so's girl, right? I was like, it's not even like that,
You're
man.
like,
Like,
you're like, dog,
chill,
I'm fucking married with a kid, bro.
like
Take it
chill.
easy, man.
Yeah, like
Why don't you
relax.
say that for me too? I'm also married with a kid. Why don't you?
Anyway, so yeah, like they're just, both of them have a spirit like no other. Like their chi, their energy. Like when I had a great conversation with him after Sheffield this past year, um, and he was kind of going through the same kind of turmoil I was on whether or not he was contemplating on competing at Nats to go to Worlds, because he knew that Petrie would potentially, or even Gavin would beat his total, and he wouldn't go to Worlds. So he was like, we had a great conversation, because I was like, I'm in your shoes, dude. Like, I don't know if I'm gonna compete at PA Nats, and this was in February. I was like, I don't even know if I'm gonna be ready for PA Nats next year. So I was like, I don't know if I'm competing, and we kind of just had a great conversation, and he just has a great energy about him. So like he exudes that, I think, to his audience and social media, and people love it. And he just yeah, he's a gamer. He has a great story. People love an underdog, and I feel like he's an underdog now. So
Yeah,
coming back,
which is
seeing it,
weird.
yeah, it's weird, right? Right. Because someone
Because
had asked me who's the GOAT 93, and I was like, it's Keiko, man. He's Mr. You talk about Mr. Consistency, like been consistent over the last few years. Um, I looked at his resume for competitions, and his totals, even though he's been injured, he's the standard. He's won numerous times over and over again. Where people were like, he's the underdog, Gavin's gonna beat him, so and so's gonna beat him, and he came out on top. So he was just Mr. Consistency. And I was like, until someone beats that consistency, I consider, even though Gavin, like, phenomenal performance, Gustav, phenomenal performance, but in terms of like consistency over the years, it's Keiko in my opinion. So yeah, I love that guy. Nothing but respect. But yeah, he's killing it, killing it.
a couple things I want to put in there. So he's killing it on social media without doing the Russell or he or Gavin shirt off thing. Like
Yeah,
he's like it's you
but
can
he is
do
putting
this.
up great numbers.
He's putting up fantastic numbers, but I mean normal pictures will blow up. Like he's found a lane. I don't know if he's got a market. Like maybe there's a background because he's Filipino. Maybe he's tapped into an Asian market that's like, hey man, this guy, like you could tap into certain markets. I don't know. I don't see his numbers. I would be interested in seeing because
Well,
guys like Russ,
he posts every day. So that's one thing. He understands algorithm. So like he hasn't missed a day. He will post every day. It's literally like day 5, day 6, day 7. Like
really,
he posts every day. Like you talk about Mr. Consistency. Like he posts every day. He's caught the algorithm. Like me, I am so inconsistent on my social media that like even though I have a decent amount of followers, like my reach is poor. I don't get a lot of as big of a reach as I did when I was posting normally.
hmm,
So that like, and I haven't been competing either. So I'm kind of in this weird. I'm not posting heavy sets either. On my bench I am, but no one likes bench. um,
that's
but you have to be very consistent on social media. That's what it's about. I follow the guy that runs Instagram, like the CEO of Instagram, not Zuckerberg, but the guy that actually runs it. And he said you have to post every day. Otherwise, you're either one going to lose followers or two lose reach. So
hmm.
that's consistency, man.
And
But yeah,
also
to
I
your
was gonna
point, you gotta have an audience that like a market that likes your stuff.
I think he's tapped in. I heard he's huge in Mexico for whatever reason. I think they did a seminar down there, and
Yep.
I think he's tapping into certain markets that other people, kind of like Penna in France. He might have tapped into other markets because even Penna, shirt off. Look at the
Yeah.
formula is not hard. You want to attract gym goers. When people go to the gym, they want to get jacked and strong. If you're
Hmm.
looking for inspiration, you're looking for a guy who's jacked and strong.
Yep.
You look like Gavin's fucking huge, Russ jacked as shit. Even Penn, who's a 66, jacked, and they're all strong as hell. It's pretty easy. Like that's one of those things. But Keiko's gone a different route. And like he'll every now and then throw a jack photo too, but that's small margin of how much he does. And they're blowing up. So I'm interested. I don't know. I kind of want to ask him, what market have you tapped into? What does the background of your stats look like? Like, because I think maybe he might have. And also Gustav, though. You briefly mentioned him, but talk about a late surge from our boy who was the bridesmaid, never the bride, and now back to back Sheffield and Worlds. And he won Sheffield and Worlds in the 93s, which is like Petrie, Emil, like, all these guys. Like it's been, and then what he had to deal with at
Well, there was
Sheffield.
some underperformances, right?
Sure, but my man, it's for
But he
him to do
rose to the occasion.
those back-to-back wins. Those are two big back-to-back wins. Sheffield and
Huge.
Worlds. Yeah,
100%.
that's
100%.
that's
I'm not taking anything away from him. Trust me.
yeah, yeah.
Trust me.
Yeah, it's been I'm glad to see Gustav get his dues because how close he's been at times. Like he had Tycho
Yeah.
in 2021 and lost it at the knees. And he like there's been a couple times when he was right there for him.
Dude,
And
that was the last thing that I asked him at Sheffield when I was interviewing him. Um, I was like, so like you lost in 2021, 2022, and here we are uh, in 2024. Fast forward, um, how does it feel to like finally get revenge on the 93s? And yeah, it was crazy to see his journey. But he pulled it out at Sheffield, and it was like, all right, well, are you going to be able to beat a meal? That because I personally I didn't think Petrie was going to be able to do what he did at Nats on the international stage. It was his first time. It's always that first time thing, man. Like especially in a weight class like that, very competitive, first time traveling, having to get your uh, bearings under you, as they say. I'm not saying travel is the end all be all, or if it even. It's just you're in a different country. You got to find different food. You're eating different food. You're eating that country's food. That interrupts things. Your sleep is different. Training is different. So on and so forth. Right.
where your sleep
So
is,
it's
dude.
just
Let me throw some out there too, which fucking bothers the shit out of me. Is people are like, I don't want to hear about travel. Yeah, that's easy. Look, it's not a big deal. You just plan ahead of time. Did you deal with the 6 hour time zone change? Did
right.
you, tough guy? Because
Right.
there's people from fucking Australia who have a 12-hour time zone change. And don't tell me when your body thinks it's noon and it's fucking midnight and you have to go to sleep, but you can't because it's only noon. How often do you go to bed for 8 hours at noon? Unless you're 85 years old, you don't.
Yeah.
And for that person, they're just not going to sleep that night. It's fucking the way it works. It
Right.
drives me crazy when people
It
talk
is.
about this.
It's
Like,
wild.
it's not that big of a deal. What are you talking about? Tell me you've not done this before without telling me you've not done this before.
Right.
It happens. Like everything from your flight getting delayed. Like, look what happened to Russ. From
Yeah.
everything can happen with travel, from your flight getting delayed to show up at Worlds, period.
Hmm.
Everyone's like, holy shit, that was a different vibe. Russ was like, when Jurgens went out there to pull against me and beat me, I thought the roof was going to cave in there cheering. It's a different vibe. Don't tell me it's not the same. You haven't been to Worlds then. Yeah.
Right.
You haven't been to Worlds if you're thinking, no, it's all the same. It's not going to feel like nationals. I promise you.
Right.
I promise you, this is not the same. It's crazy. But like, if you do it at Nats, you get to do it at Worlds. Well, maybe. And some people like it's not travel. It's not travel. And then Perk shows up a kilo and a half below body weight. Like, dog, travel kind of. Can we call a spade here? Can we just
Dude,
talk
it's
freely? Be like, hey,
yeah.
hey,
I think it just
uh,
gets like everyone puts the blinders on and they get fixated on, oh, you have to travel. And it's like it's not just the travel, it's the entire experience of
yeah.
traveling internationally. Like if you haven't done that and tried to compete, you don't know what it is and you can't speak on it. So don't. You can
Dude,
have an
and I think
opinion.
and
No
I
what?
think Americans are super duper like who haven't are super duper testy about it or sensitive about it because they have accomplishments only within America that they
Right.
don't want to have any caveats on. When it's like, and then when they go, sometimes they don't want to like say the word like travel got me a little. It's like, why was your body weight off so much?
Yeah.
Why was that?
Yeah.
Why did this happen to you when that didn't happen to you before? Why was can we just be
Dude,
honest? It's okay. It's
in
okay
South
to say you were wrong. Some people are like, I can't. I always said before when I was in IPF, I said travel's bullshit, and now I can't. Just fucking say it. It's real. It's real.
in South Africa last year, for Worlds, I was eating a steak the night before I was lifting. Like if I was in the US, I'd be eating fucking peanut butter the night before. eating calorie dense food. Um, but like again, it's the difference in the food, it's the difference in water, sleep. There's so many factors, man. But anyway, Petrie, I was assuming it's his first international competition, like real under the gun, real battle. So I was like, I honestly think he'll probably get bronze. That was my assumption, and it was going to be a battle between Gustav and Emil. And it ended up being a battle between those two again. So I, yeah, I don't know, man. 93s are going to be an interesting weight class to watch to see the progress. And Gavin I had listened to Gavin. He said the progress being made in the 93s, no one else is doing it. Um, I think the 74s may have got to
Hey, listen.
93.
Hey, listen. Hey, listen. Sometimes you just let that wild horse fucking gallop on the mountainside, and you don't dare try to rein it in. You
That's fair.
you you just let it go. All right.
I love him to death though. He when you talk about burn your shifts, I just think of like he wears his heart on his sleeve. That's who he is. Um, at times, and he mans up and takes ownership at times as well for whatever shortcomings he has, but then all in when he goes all in all the time, and that's what I
Yeah,
love about him. He's able to really own it, and that's you talk about building a brand. That's like he's done that. So
it's a fact.
for him to hit the 901, the first ever do it, man. Flowers off to him. Hats off to him too. So yeah, I think 93 is going to be also another class to watch to see outliers starting to emerge.
Let me ask you your opinion about your TSG teammate Leah about whether or not would you think she should do
Mm,
63 or 69 in your opinion. I'll
mm-hmm.
give you mine afterwards, but look at phenomenal rivalry with Gara
Yeah.
and like they are I think they're 2 for 2 now and like they're both their resumes are ridiculous at
Mm-hmm.
this point. However, neither one of them are true 69s, at least not yet.
Right.
Maybe Gara will blossom into one, but a true 69 is I get the fucking shit go when she came down. And I think when classes get more competitive, you will no longer be able to be small, walk in there and beat everybody. Like earlier in the conversation where you're like, there's a time period, 74s are like 83s looking delicious. And then Joey B comes around and he'll be like, don't think about it. Don't even think about it. Whereas maybe that's going to happen in some of these other weight classes. In 69, we saw Agata come in and it was kind of like that, right? So I can see a case where like you can continue in the 69 and keep going this beautiful rivalry with Corolla Gara, or go into your proper weight class. You should cut. I think eventually it's going to be so competitive all around. A lot of people are going to have to cut
Yeah.
and you're never going to fail at 60. You're never going to be 71 kilos cutting to 69. You can cut to 63 and your numbers probably won't even suffer. If they do, it'll be on the margins and you could and do your damn thing. And Megan Scalen's there and Megan is full throttle right now. You have an adversary, a very credible adversary. And Megan's peaking at the perfect point for to be a really good showdown.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know, man. What do you think?
That's so tough, man. Like, I, you you almost have to just commit to the weight class. I feel like she's almost on the cusp like I am with 74s. Where for so long I just said I'm a 74. That's who I am. That's how I just want to perceive myself as. And I'm committed to it. So I never ate into 83s or tried to get above a certain number. And I feel like there's just this something in the back of her mind that says I'm still a 63. So she doesn't eat into 69, you know? And it's a very like even for me to be as heavy as I am, it was a mental barrier that I had to break in terms of like seeing the scale the heaviest I've ever been in a very long time since football. So it, it, and it's not that it's scary. It's just you're committing to something, and it's like holy shit, I'm actually doing this. So that's kind of how I'm if I'm thinking of it, how I kind of am seeing it from Leah's. I don't know if that's truly how she's feeling. I don't know. But at least like if I had to guess, maybe that could be one of the things where she's like, I'm gonna go to 69, but I'm not really gonna eat up to 69 to even way above 69. I'm just gonna hover in this mid area to potentially come back down to 63s if I want to. So I think if I were her, I would just commit and not look back to a weight class. Like just say, look, I'm either a 69 now or a 63. And if you're a 69, get up to as heavy as you possibly can to fill out that weight class. Don't, because I talked to Kedrick about this as well. He's like, look, do you want to be an 83? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm not like set on 83s, but I'm open to it. And he's like, no, you have to commit. And I was like, all right, I'll make a decision before Nats and give us time enough to cut weight if we have to. And he at least agreed to that. So if like with both of them, like if you because Carola, well, how much do you know what her like natural weight is where she walks around?
Um, Gara did not cut either, so her natural weight will be what she competed at. Let me pull it up right now. Corolla Gara, one sec here.
Because again, I think it's both of those factors where it's like just eat as much as you possibly can, recover. Um, don't worry about the scale. Don't worry about how you look. Just make sure that you're getting everything done possible to recover and train as hard as you possibly can and let the rest fall
Gara
where it may.
Gara is also she's 67.6, so she's not cutting, she's not
Light,
filling it
yeah.
out. She's also, but I talked to Gara at Worlds and she's like, I am not going to 63. I talked to this was before like she won. And she's
Mm-hmm.
like, I'm not going back. Like I'm going full steam ahead.
Mm-hmm.
I think Lee is thinking about going to 63. And I think to your point, I think Lee was always in the back of her mind because it was almost
Yeah.
like, why not try 69? And then Gara's coming up. So your main rival is coming up as well. So why am I cutting? She's coming up. Like, why? Both of us are essentially disagreeing. Why don't we do the same thing we do at 63, but let's just not have to cut? Traveling and
Yeah.
everything. That's so much easier. Perfect. Perfect.
Yeah.
But I do honestly think in the back of Leah's mind, I agree. She probably is like, we're 263s agreeing to battle at 69.
Yeah.
And then, but in Gara's mind, she's probably thinking, I'm actually 69, just haven't fully grown out in it yet, and I will get bigger and stronger. But I think Leah probably was thinking, like, I was kind of just, you know, this just worked out the way it worked out, so why
Mm-hmm.
not?
Mm-hmm.
But but she's probably thinking like, I think she still does see herself as a 63. I don't think she ever wants to get up to 71 kilos and cut down or whatever. I don't think so. I think to
No.
your point, in the back of her mind, she wasn't full in on the 69 kilo experience. So it's going to eventually catch up to you and tell. But like she won world titles. Now she's a two division world champ. So good. But moving forward, you got to make a decision. And I tell you what, Megan Scalen's turning into a monster down there. So you better hurry up.
Yeah.
You know, you better. She's Megan Scalen's a
Which man,
beast
dude,
down there.
I love Megan by the way. Like,
Yeah, she's
uh,
awesome.
man, her and her husband are phenomenal people too. I every time for the last two worlds, um, I've been with them in the warm up room, and uh, well, last year and then the worlds before that in South Africa. Um, it was, yeah, like we shared the platform warming up for the one in Malta last year, and then we were in the warm up room getting ready to compete in Malta as well. And then in 2022 in South Africa, it was the same thing. Like we shared platforms. So I love Megan. I love her tenacity. The way that, dude, she had two kids, came back like nothing has ever happened. Like her body transformed, and now it's even stronger than it's ever been. So it's
Yeah,
like it's
mid-30s.
mid 30s. It's wild, her path and where she's like her story. So like I have nothing but respect for her to see. I get to see her at the end of the month or in October because she'll be at the meet as well, just handling stuff
Oh,
for
nice.
Pete. She's from that area. She's from the area. She's from Boston, close to Boston, I think.
Dog,
Um,
is Chrissy Parachi going to be there? Chrissy Max
I don't.
Power, you think? Dog, what the hell
I
happened?
hope. I saw her at Sheffield
Same here.
in
Listen,
February.
let me tell you something. Okay. First off, before we talk about Chrissy, Brian, Megan's husband, I want to say I agree. He's an awesome guy. When I'm at Worlds or any competition, Brian's there. I'm like, we're gonna have a couple drinks here, my man. We're gonna like he's in. I
Yeah.
remember at Worlds, it was me, him, a couple of the Aussies. We're drinking in a park, and like, I don't know, dog. It's just the way how Worlds goes. You know how that goes. But Megan had won and did her damn
That's
thing, and he's
awesome.
celebrating more than Megan was. He's just like having drinks,
Dude, he's
talking about
such a
skills.
proud husband too, man.
He is, but he's also like he's so easy to hang out with. And he's like, you see that fucking kid from Britain? No,
Yeah.
he's so like in
No, he's in
like
it.
just
He's in it.
he's just taking the experience and just a day to day
no, I love
enjoying
it.
it, enjoyed it. And he's so funny and easy to hang out. Like anybody could be his friend. So he's perfect guy to be. When you look around the room, like, is Brian here? Because we're all good. If he's in
Yeah.
the room, you got a buddy, you can sit beside and it won't be awkward. But anyways, so when we were at Sheffield, Chrissy was dealing with some injuries.
Yep.
And like I've had Chrissy on the podcast, seen her at, competitions, whatever. And nobody had seen her in a hot minute, like on social media or anything. And I shot her a message being like, Chrissy, what is up with you? What have you been doing? Give me an update. And she saw it and I didn't get a reply. And I'm like, what the fuck's going on here? Like something's going on with Chrissy. I seen her at Sheffield and like we were hanging out and I was like, what is going on over there? You saw my message. Like, what are you dealing with? And she was like, she's full on honest. She's like, I was in some very difficult like injuries. She's dealt with multiple knee injuries. Like, I mean,
Hmm.
she never should have won the national title. She won. How many
Yep.
times she's come back and never should have come back? And in the peak of some bad dark shit, she's like, you shot that email. And it's like, and I gave her like the speech I give sometimes, like, you've got the heart of a lion, kid. Don't worry about like I gave her that. And she's like, what are you trying to make me fucking cry right now? She's like, I couldn't reply back to you. She's like, I legit could not reply. Like, really? And she's like, what are you doing to me? You're gonna... And then, so she told me at Sheffield, she was, God bless, man. I love you, man. But it was not a time I couldn't do it right there. But she was like, I was so happy to see her. Sheffield, we're like hanging out, having drinks and like, whatever. It was a great time to see her again.
Hmm.
I haven't seen her again since. That was Sheffield. And
Yeah.
she hasn't been posting and I don't know when I'm going to see her again, man. It's
It's
tough.
you know
If she comes, sorry, go ahead.
no, it's crazy because you've mentioned this numerous times where it's like the powerlifting scene is just changing before our eyes, right? Like Russ, Russ may never see another world championship. I may never see another world championship, and it's like it's crazy to think about how quickly this sport is shifting and where it's headed. It's crazy, man. Because you got guys now, and that's why I wanted to kind of get your opinion of like, what do you think it is that these younger kids are just coming out of the woodwork? Because it's taken a pretty short amount of time, relatively speaking, um, to see the numbers that we're seeing now and quote unquote outliers. I feel like that outlier person is changing every month now.
The stats are
um,
getting skewed. Well, first off, um, yes, like to your point that instigated this conversation with Chrissy, it is tough to see people if they like her, she might not even just be there to compete. Like she might be injured, and that's tough because you become friends with people, and
yeah.
then you're like, fuck, I don't live in the same city, even country. I don't know when I'm going to see you again. I may
Hmm.
not.
Hmm.
That's very difficult.
Yeah.
That's tough, man. That's tough. And that's what it was and to your point earlier, like talking about you, Russ, I think you guys missed the cutoff. I've had this conversation before, but before this era, there wasn't nearly as much like social media, major events, etc. You guys made the leap into that era where, I mean, obviously you're on all these podcasts and both you guys are regulars and you've like competed at Sheffield, worked it on the media side, and you've done whatever, everything you've done, right? So you've made it. And I like the sport needs to honor the previous legends. So eventually everyone gets cycled out in sports, period. They're Father Time's undefeated, but this cannot we can't forget about our legends, right? And this is where like when I'm talking about you, like open door policy. I don't give a shit if you don't win another national title or another world title. To your point about what if me and Russ don't go to worlds ever again? It's all good. For
Hmm.
me, you're still the resume we already just said. So fuck it, let's come on and let's talk. But um for some people, like you and Russ are incredible resumes. And of course, you're going to come on a podcast and we'll just talk like other sports. You have retired vets, but there'll be a lot of people that you're used to seeing that aren't fucking Taylor Atwood level or Russell of 5 years straight, like Russ, where it's like, yeah, what happens? These people, what happens? That's tough. That's very difficult for me sometimes. I'm a relationship guy.
Yeah.
So that's
You know
that's
what's
what I
great, man? Talk about relationships. I've always wanted like shout out to Lane. Like you talk about a guy that has been in it since the beginning, and still does it. Like even in he's a masters and going traveling and doing stuff. So like I, I can't tell you if I'll do that or if I'll be as that involved. Like when I get to like the masters age, it's creeping up on me. But um, I appreciate Lane to no extent, man. Like he has stayed in the game, has given props. He just coached Gavin on his nutrition.
yeah. You
Uh,
can I say something?
so he's
Uh,
still like relevant,
Like I
which
was
is
saying to the
wild.
podcast, I was saying the podcast with Gavin. My man was blowing up my phone when Gavin was competing too. He was his nutrition coach. You would have thought he had $1 million on him. Like he was like he called me. We ended up talking. He's like, we're gonna end up talking. This is escalating quickly. This is going from messages, text messages to voicemail to fucking. You're calling me, aren't you? You are. You're calling me for sure. We're gonna have to talk this out. He was so invested in Gavin and what was happening. He's like, when the number went down for his second squat, it was crazy. Like, talk about burn your ships. It was his second attempt squat was not a number that would ever be put on the bar at a world championship or
Yeah.
Sheffield. Like they would never load it. But he went all in, and Lane is like, "Fuck, I'm gonna have an anxiety attack." he's like, he's like, he's like, "Holy shit!" He goes, What happens? What happens if he only gets his opener?" And I'm doing the math, like, not good. It's he took like a 30-kilo jump on his first to second, and Lane's like, holy shit, talk about burning your ships if this doesn't like I'm like, dude, again, he's a wild horse. Don't try to tame him. Just
Let him
one of
run.
these days that wild horse is going to hit pay dirt. My God, it hit pay dirt. And Lane could have been happier. Um, but yeah, to your point, Lane stays in, man.
Yeah.
Lane stays in, and he's not like all in. He doesn't know who everybody is all the time, but he watches all the worlds because again, he blows up my inbox with like VMs when it comes to the world championships, and he's in on that level. And in terms of what you're saying about why is it all of a sudden, I think we're starting to see the effect of from Sheffield to just like the world's leveling up and the experience leveling up. And now it's just the bigger the net you throw, the more outliers you're going to gather.
Hmm.
And this is what we're starting to find. Like,
So you think it's just a bigger talent pool?
think it's a bigger talent pool. I think the talent pool is swelling to an extent now. Like if you go back to old totals that used to win worlds of like 2012, 2013, it's not even close. Like you're
Yeah.
not even getting top 10. Now, that's where like the talent pool is swelling so much that people we never would have reached before are finding powerlifting. And we got like
Yeah.
full on for really real influencers like Cranen, Warford, who works with Joey, to
Yeah.
who did phenomenal, to Joy Fitness, who's got like crazy reach in every freaking girl that sees them and is like, I want to be like that,
Mm-hmm.
is now joining powerlifting. And all like all
Yeah.
the guys, whatever. It doesn't matter. Everybody's finding powerlifting now a lot easier. And then when they find it, it's not a ho hum world championship that kind of looks, is this world? It's look at worlds now. Look at Jerns versus Russ. You see those clips, you're like, holy shit, that looks amazing. I thought powerlifting would be boring. People who say powerlifting's boring is like, when's the last time you went to Sheffield or Worlds? Probably
Yeah.
a long time ago.
Long
You can't
time.
go to Sheffield or Worlds and tell me that. It's not boring. So when people find it now, but previous years, I bet you you wouldn't find it because the amount of the influencers we had weren't as big. Now they're
Mm-hmm.
monstrous. And then when you do find it, you're pleased. You're very pleased with what you find. You're like, oh my God, this is crazy. So we have more and more outliers. And going back to what I said earlier, I think when the depth gets that deep, it's like the Olympics. You come home with a silver medal, people are like, silver? People are like, fucking, you got your friend is a medalist at Olympics. If you're a medalist at Worlds, it's going to be like, holy shit. It's going to be because there is already in the 93s, already they're like in the 93s. When you think about like 1 to 5, it's going to be crazy, man.
Yeah.
It's like you look at the 83s. When you have guys like certain people won't even make it to Worlds, it's crazy how the depth of talent in some of these divisions where it's like, yeah,
Do you
fudge
think the
yeah.
women's side is seeing the same thing?
They are, and I think so. Me and Eric Helms had a podcast last year, and he dropped an interesting stat. He said like the oldest women's record was like, I mean, within a year. He said of the 8 weight classes in the different disciplines, including total, something like 90% were broken within that year. Like all of
Wow.
them just like turned over, turned over, turned over,
Holy
turned over,
crap.
turned over
Okay.
constantly. From like worlds to Europeans to Asians to whatever, because the women's is leveling up so quickly. Whereas the men, powerlifting, like you were around for back in the day where you go to powerlifting competition, there's like 2 women.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
all dudes. Whereas now it's like 50-50. It's
Yeah.
just
I
crazy.
think it's even
So
more.
it maybe at times. So it took a little time for the women's because the men's had already developed to an extent, and then the women's really started getting going afterwards. But they're catching up very, very quickly. So I think some of the yeah, man, it's just bonkers all
You
over.
know what I love? I love that like a Cranon, for example, because I know there's a huge influencer at my gym. I'm not going to mention names, but she's got like over 4 million on TikTok, 2.5 million on Insta. She works with Gymshark, but she goes to my gym, and I'm boys with her boyfriend. But like Cranon and her, they're both at
Head over
Gymshark.
DMs.
Nah, chill. Uh,
Going back to earlier, are you in your fucking DMs as well?
chill, chill.
Enough.
um, oh, you're a savage, Brian. You're a savage. Anyway, uh, no, what I love is the fact that they're both at Gymshark, but Crennan is kind of making this wave for women, in my opinion. Like Leah's done it, but someone as like that has the reach that Crennan has, because she's like the poster child for Gymshark, which is crazy. But she's making it cool to be strong as a woman. Like I feel like Meg Squats is kind of there too. I don't know if you know Meg Squats, but
Yeah.
she used to be in powerlifting previously. But like this wave of making it okay for women to be strong to the masses. It's not just like a niche thing anymore. And like even CrossFit has helped for sure, but like to see more women entering into powerlifting, um, and like not being afraid to get big or strong, to be quote unquote manly. It's like, nah, man, I love that shit. I'd love to see the platforms that these women have and using it to inspire a younger generation of women that may. I saw Celine post something about uh, this body image on issue on Sports Illustrated. I wish this is what I saw when I was younger of like what a true woman athlete looks like. It may have
Mm.
made my image better in my mind, whatever. And like Cranon, I feel like is a part of that movement too, at a scaled level where it's like she's she's influencing this 2.5 on Insta, 4.5 million on TikTok girl to come in and start powerlifting. Whereas before it was just like she just wanted to go in and be a bodybuilder. And now it has, to your point, this reach of now there's millions of people. Like she's wearing SBD knee sleeves, she's wearing a belt, and it's like you see in the comment section of like, hey, what are you wearing? What are those sleeves on your knees? And it's cool to see people that wouldn't have seen powerlifting before now get introduced to it. So I think to your point, the women's side is probably going to start seeing this influx, continue to see this influx of competition, just similar to the men, where you'll see more Agatas come in and dominate. And Agatha, oh my God, saying that
Oh, dude,
she was gonna go to 84s to give Amanda a run for
Lord,
her
dude,
money.
I love it. I love it, dude. So I'm a huge
Ooh.
Agatha guy, but she's also super nice and like easy to hang out with.
Yeah,
She's a wild little freaking spicy
dude,
little
she's a
number.
savage.
Like she's a savage, man. Um, yeah, like she could do like I love that she went down, cut down 69, and you see her like flexing. She was jacked to shit. You want to talk about breaking down stereotypes? She got jacked, like rip
Hmm.
jacked. But then she's also like, yeah, whatever, but I don't have to. Like I was saying earlier about eventually you got to get super ripped to be competitive because everyone else is, and it's just going to be that tight. Where she is like, but I don't have to. And she's going back up to 76
Hmm.
and battling Carlina, of
Yep.
all people, who's a monster. And
Yep.
then after taking the 76-kilo title, she's like, I don't know, maybe I go 84.
Hmm.
And Amanda's like, excuse me, 84?
Yeah.
You don't bite off more than you could chew, love. But Agatha is not afraid. And I love like that would be a pretty good clash. Now, Amanda is that's a big one. Like that's Amanda could be
No
the
one.
women's GOAT.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
she is. I think she's
Yeah.
the GOAT for the women's side. Come on.
Yeah. She's done it in the modern era. No one has touched her. She's yeah. No one. I don't know anyone who has her resume.
Two-time, like 5 world titles, two-time best lifter. Um, I mean, what are we talking here? Like
Yeah.
she just she it's got to be her. And to your point, like the modern era, which matters, right?
Right.
Like if you could bridge it, cool. But she's done it in the modern era, which
Because
is like a
you
whole
can
nother ballgame.
yeah. Because you could talk about Walford. You could talk about Thompson. It just it doesn't hit the same. Uh, just given the modern era, to your point, it's like strong is no longer strong anymore.
It-
You
dude,
can't
what's
take
happened?
away their titles and what they've done in their resume, but it's
No,
like,
we couldn't be where we are now without them. I give my hats off
yeah,
to Kimberly, Jen Thompson. Like we need you. Every sport needs their pioneers for sure,
yeah,
but you can't compare Shoeless Joe Jackson to
no,
Barry Bonds.
no.
You know what I mean? No, that's an exaggeration, obviously. So the 100 years of powerlifting we're comparing, but in terms of like what we've seen in progress, it's been, especially on the women's side, it's crazy. And
Yeah.
Amanda has been that demon where it's like, you be careful. You
Hmm.
knock on that door, love. You be careful
Hmm.
because if I answer that door, You know what I'm saying? Be
I
careful.
don't know, man. I think we can speculate right now. Like, do you think Agatha would have a chance at beating Amanda?
You know what? So Agatha told me going into the 76 kilo world championship, she thought 620, 625 could have been on the table. Didn't need it. Carlina had a tough day, so she wasn't going to be pushed. Carlina also thought maybe 620 range. Agatha settled on 610-ish, six, whatever the hell. If Agatha, so as you know, as an 84, how much more kilos can Agatha throw on the total? I do think there's diminishing gains, though. I think
Fair.
the first weight class you move up, you'll probably enjoy pretty good. But
Hmm.
the second weight class after that, I think it's diminishing gains. At least I would think it's going to be different per person. That's what's tough for me.
Yeah, I think if she's putting on muscle, not fat, I
But
truly,
that'll help too, though. Even fat will help too. And she's also young. How old is Agatha?
yeah, she's young. She's 22, 23.
Oh, she is at Worlds. Okay. No, this is July. As of July 13th, she's 21. It's crazy. It's
21.
ridiculous.
Oh my God.
21 and a savage. Listen, she at some point she could go 84
Yeah,
for sure.
like,
Right away, I don't know, but
what are we
she
talking about? There's no diminishing returns with Agatha. She's 21, man. Like,
I don't know. In Eastern Europe, they did some kind of weird fucking testing. I know she far is past the Soviet Union falling, but they fucking got her. Somebody did some kind of weird testing in Poland, and here we are. And
you know what,
she's not
man?
human. Don't tell me she's human.
I heard Joe Rogan talking about this in Brazil with who's the boxer from Brazil? Bald head, or sorry, not boxer, MMA. Bald head. Um, he's in that bigger weight class. Machado,
Tell me the
maybe.
story, and I'll know who it is.
So there was a fight, and the he broke his bone. Went to a doctor in the U.S.
Yeah, I'm
and
gonna
the
tell you.
bone was like already healing days
Yeah.
after it had
So
already broken.
this is Yoel Romero from
Ramiro,
Cuba.
that's
Yeah,
right.
yeah, from Cuba. And anyone listening, Google him at like 45. You want to talk about diced? We're talking crazy diced,
Yeah,
jacked. Like his traps start at his ears and go down to like it's insane.
dude,
He's so
insane.
crazy jacked and diced. And people like he's got to be on steroids. I don't know, but I'm telling you, there are people walking this earth that are not like the rest of us. So he had broken bone, eye socket, everything smashed in. Went to the doctor. To your point, the bone was already healing. In the muscle tissue around his eye, they had to cut through the muscle tissue to get into the eye to help try to fix the eye. And the doctor's like, there's nothing I'd ever seen. And Dana White's like, what do you mean? And he goes, he has like literally 3 times the amount of muscle tissue I'm normally seeing. It's very difficult to work around his eye. This is his eye. The muscle tissue, it was insane. He's like, it was layers upon layers, very dense, deep. He's like, what the fuck is this guy? It obviously Romero comes into the office. He's 45 years old, lays down on the table, and it's like Wolverine walked in the office and laid down on
That's
your
right.
table.
That's
And it's
right.
like, why? I'm sorry, sir. When did this injury happen? Because you're healing already.
Yeah.
You know,
Literal modern day Wolverine.
as he's trying to cut into his face, he's like, how deep does your face go? Why is there so much muscle mass around your face? Well, you can't work your face out. So, do you laugh a lot? Like, how the fuck is your face so muscular? And so it just goes to show, like, there are people walking around that are just they're built
Yeah,
different to
man.
use that cliche term, but it's true. They're just different. They
It's
that is a for real outlier. There's a guy in the Olympics actually who just won his fourth or fifth at least medal. I think he won like 3 Olympics, and other times he got silver or bronze at the Olympics, and he's like in his 40s. So he's been to 5 Olympics. Keep in mind, once every 4 years. So 5 Olymp. It's
That's
crazy.
wild.
And he just
Oh,
retired.
wrestler. Was
Wrestler.
he?
That's right.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
He was
From
all over
Cuba.
the social media. That's right. Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
and he's jacked as shit,
Dude,
still
huge,
jacked, still
huge.
the whole nine. And you see pictures throughout though, and he's consistently jacked. Like it wasn't like body
Dude, they were
transformation. Like what the
testing
fuck
on those
happened that year?
motherfuckers, man. They were
What's that?
testing. They were testing on them for sure.
You know what Romero said? He goes, growing up in Cuba, when you're wrestling, if you're on the B squad, international squad, but you're doing like Commonwealth championships or whatever, not worlds, you eat twice a day. You're on the A squad, you eat 3 times a day. You eat better every time you do better. You start winning titles, we're going to put you in a fucking house. You just got yourself a house. It was literally like wrestle your fucking way to food. Like you
That's
wrestle your way to a
wild.
better life. Wrestle like that's how they would
That's
go. So
wild.
you're in that room and everyone on the B squad is looking at the guys on the A squad like I fucking want to eat your food, literally and figuratively. I'm going to eat your food today. You know what I mean? Like you are fighting for everything you have. And like you're going to be out of your house and I'm going to be living in your house next year because I'm going to Worlds. You know, it's like that. Like he said, it was crazy level over there. Like they're boxers, they're wrestlers or
Hmm,
whatever.
hmm.
Um, yeah, it's wild. Some of these other nations, man. I mean, you look at Eastern
Agatha,
Europe, some of these Eastern European nations,
they
they're
got
rising
lucky.
up in like boxing and wrestling. They're to an extent, it makes you wonder about like I think it was Marvin Hagler who said it's very difficult to get up and run. Marvin Hagler is like a famous boxer. Very difficult to get up and run when you're sleeping in satin sheets. How the
Well,
fuck do you wake
Dana
up at
says
six
that
o'clock
all
in
the
the
time about Connor. Says that about Khabib. Like it's hard.
Connor hasn't fought since. And it's like back in the day, he would fight with that broken pinky toe. He's got a pinky toe now. He's like, I don't know. When you're hungry and you need it, it's a
Different,
whole nother
man.
ball game. If you come from a nation that's like, this is my way out. This is my way to another life. This is
You
my
know that
everything.
that's a great thing because even Austin, Joe, like they're young guys, but they're still hungry, and I see it. And for them to like not rest on their laurels and say, no, I'm not done yet. I'm not done. And them still pushing themselves because again, the one thing I've always told Austin that I will respect you because I know the hard work that it's taken to get to the level that you're at now because I did it. So that is like hats off to him already. Even though I'm a competitor of his and like sometimes we don't see eye to eye, I'll always respect him from that perspective. But it's like to see them so young and still hungry, even after what they just did, it's just like it's a scary, scary thought of
Because you
like
remember,
what
because
we're about.
you're like, I know exactly what you're thinking when you see me, young
Dude,
man. You
dude.
fuck you back up and give me room because I know what you're thinking because I used to think it. Hey, show respect to me. Be respectful. And you know what? Well, two things because you made a really good point there. First off, Russ for the first time ever, in terms of cutting corners or whatever it might have been. Joey talked about it on the podcast. I haven't dropped it yet. By the time this podcast drops, Russ's will have dropped. But you think about when you're just winning year after year after year, you will get lenient on yourself, even if you don't think you did. You have to a little, at least a little.
Happened to me.
It's different when you've won for 20 kilo spreads for 5 years than when you're Joey B on the way up and you're like, you have everything I want.
Hmm.
I haven't had it yet. You have everything I want. Whereas you're just winning, winning, winning. And now we're going to see what Russ does. I think now we're going to see a different. Russ is at 860 when he's winning, winning, winning. So I don't count Russ out to talk about earlier. Joey B and Addy are impressive coming up and Jurens, what Jurens pulled off. But Russ right now, for the first time in a long time, we're going to see Russ like when Brett was there. We're
Hmm.
going to see Russ where he goes to bed and he's like, fuck me, Brett Gibbs is coming. Like it's going to be that Russ from eating to sleeping to everything. It's going to be different. So I'm excited for that. And then to further our conversation about powerlifting, what's going on now in powerlifting? Can you imagine if powerlifting does go the route of the Olympics or something like that, we get to that stage, even if not Olympics, let's just say to that meaningfulness globally, where it changes people's lives, where you will have nations like Cuba and people like Joel fucking Romero coming out of Cuba, where it's like, I make worlds, I eat 3 times a day. I win worlds, I got to play my own house. And you have people in Eastern Europe who are dog from the Khabibs to whatever, where
Hmm.
it's like you heard Khabib talk to the guys in the training room where they're complaining like you ran us like 10 miles last night. You make us wake up and we're 100%. You're grinding us to the ground. And Khabib's like, you want to go home? Go home. It's okay. World championships every year. Doesn't have to be you. Maybe this isn't you. You go home to Dagestan. Your mother will let you sleep in. You go home. It's easy. It's easy. Or Islam Makachev had another press conference after he won. He won and he's got a press conference and he's got to go out there for like an hour after he's been beat up for 5 rounds, cut weight. All he wants to do is eat and be with his friends. And Khabib, and he's kind of complaining. And Khabib's backstage and heard him complaining. He goes, "You don't want to do this? No problem. No problem. Lose. Nobody will want to talk to you." And then he's like, "Go do your job. Just do your job." And it becomes, right now, we have everybody we have. Open this up globally, like for really real, like MMA is, or like some Olympic sports are, and you want to talk about freaks showing up? Like certain nations turn on and be like, okay, we're going all in on powerlifting. And all of a sudden Cuba's like, we got a powerlifting program. And or all these nations do. And then you have guys coming up who are like, I'm gonna change my life, and you're in the way.
Hmm.
It's good. Whoa,
Hmm.
dog. Wait, it's gonna be nuts.
Powerlifting's got a bright future as long as we do the right things necessary from a marketing perspective, um, and we have a good governing body. But yeah, like the talent pool itself, if we continue with the Sheffields, if we have potentially more Sheffields, have closer battles to your point with the 93s, next year with the 83s, this year or this coming year at Sheffield for the 83s as well. On the men's side, women's side, we can talk all day, but uh, powerlifting's got a bright future. Um, and the talent pool that we have right now is just crazy to even think about what the future actually is going to hold.
And
I don't
things could
know.
change for us, Playboy. Listen, man, I appreciate you hopping on this bad boy for
Yep,
me. We're getting close to freaking 3 hours, and we did this on a
three.
whim. Dog, we started at 7. It's 9:40 now.
Yeah, that's
It's
fair.
freaking dude. We rumbled, man, and we threw this together quick. To your point, like I moved in so I've been like crazy. My work has been crazy, but I had to move twice in the past.
Oof.
Like this summer's been nutso. So every time we're trying to run, and I lost a weekend because I got sick too. I was gonna have Alba Bolstrom on before the year junior worlds. We didn't even go into that, but we don't have to cover
Yeah,
everything in this in
yeah.
one sitting. But I was gonna have her on, and when I got sick, I lost a fucking weekend and I had to cancel with her, and we'll talk afterwards. But yeah, man, we got to do this again. Obviously, we'll talk. Let's
We'll
talk
talk
after your
after the
competition.
yeah after
Yeah,
comp.
and we can reflect on because I want to get your impression on a lot of things. Junior Worlds will pass. Wild cards for Sheffield will be announced. There'll be a lot of
Yeah.
things. So we'll talk about
Hmm.
junior or actually Euros change, but also I wanted to pick your brain about people who are in the open, medaling at Worlds in the open, and going to Junior Worlds.
Hmm.
Your thoughts on that? Some people have different thoughts on it, like not just medaling like Jess, but Jad Jacob is a reigning world champion and going to the juniors. That's interesting. People are
Yeah.
like, what? Come again? Yeah,
Yeah.
like I don't know. I don't know. Some people would do it. She's going up a weight class to make it spicy, have some fun. But I don't know. There's a lot of stuff. We have no shortage of things to talk about, but let's see how it plays out. Let them compete. Let's gather the data. Um, let Ade do his thing at Western Europeans. Let you do your thing. Let's come back. Let's touch base. Let's do the exact same thing we just did, Playboy.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you, man. Thank
I
you for your
appreciate
time.
you, dude. I appreciate you and thank you for your time. Enjoy the rest of your evening. And everybody listening, once again, please do subscribe. Give us high ratings as per usual. And until next time, six pack Lapadat, six up, and we are out.